Do you worry that little by little this is happening?
It's not happening. It's not happening. It's not going to happen because the Syrian people, they won't allow this because we want to have a freedom of religion, freedom of express our religion. I can tell you, many of my friends, they have veil, and even some of them, they have niqab, but doesn't mean that they don't have open heart and brain and everything. Even the Christians, in the time of poverty and everything, people, they get back to their tribes and feel lonely, and they start feeling like we and them. It's good to have your Muslim or Christian identity, but don't forget, your biggest identity is Syrian.
So those who fear that the government is not moving in the right direction say that Hind Kabawat being in this government gives it legitimacy. You don't feel that Hind Kabawat is the token woman, token minority in the government?
No, I don't. And I don't accept this at all, because, you know, I don't feel myself a Christian or a woman when I do my job. I feel like I'm a citizen of Syria. I have a duty to help and serve. The minute I start feeling like I am a minority or I'm a woman, I will lose my legitimacy here. So legitimacy is that you are a person, you are a citizen, your work is to help and serve. Token or anything else, I don't agree with this, no. I never feel like this.
Is there one lesson that you've learned in your first year as a minister?
So many lessons I learned. This is the first time I work with the government because I come from the private sector and the civil society. The work I do there, it's completely different. Here there is a bureaucracy, there is lots of layers and lots of papers. So I learned that I have to adjust because I'm an ADD, you know, I'm fast, and it is slow. So I have to slow and teach others to speed. So first lesson is to adjust my speed with the bureaucracy of the ministry. And second, you have to listen to everybody because you feel like it's like a puzzle. Everyone is right in their own and you put yourself into their shoes. It's the everyday challenge how to put the two cultures together, private sector, civil society with the government bureaucracy. So this is the first lesson I learned.
And finally, is there one moment in this last year where it was one of the toughest moments that you came home, you thought, I just can't do it, brought you to tears?
I have tears. Sometimes tears doesn't mean that you're weak. Tears show that you're a human. I see the suffering of the people post-conflict. I see the suffering of the women who lost their children. And I feel responsible for their pain. Sometimes I say, why did I do this? But in the end, I say, if I don't serve them now, I will have more tears later. So you cry a little bit. I wake up in the morning, I say, khalas. Another day, go back. So tears at home, feeling that sometimes I don't have the resource to help everybody. That's the only time I feel like, why did I do this? Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the interview. You'll find more in-depth conversations on the interview wherever you get your BBC podcasts, including episodes with the President of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, Noura Erakat, the Palestinian-American human rights lawyer, and Mexican actor Diego Calva. Until the next time, goodbye for now.
From the BBC, that was The Interview. I'm Saroja Coelho.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us this morning. Great to be back with you on Information Radio. Thanks to Corey Funk for filling in yesterday for me. We're starting cold once again, minus 29 up in Gimli. It's minus 22 here in Winnipeg. And as you know, temperature is only part of the story. The wind's been ruining everything. High of -9 today, but that wind chill going to feel like -34 in Winnipeg. Mainly sunny for us here in Brandon. Periods of light snow, risk of freezing drizzle this morning could make the highways a challenge. High -5, wind chill -27. And in Thompson, a high of -12. Your wind chill will make it feel like -26, and you're expecting a mainly cloudy day. So that's Manitoba, top to bottom, and we're on air with the morning show till 8:37. Thank you for joining us, as mentioned. Let's say hello to the team. Abby Adiemi behind the controls, our senior tech who covers weather. Hey, Abby. Good morning, Sierra Sanders, directing the show, and we'll be on air covering your commute. Hopefully it's going to be safe this morning. And hello, Darren Marash. Darren is our producer of our YouTube stream. Say hello if you're watching us there. All right, let's go to Heather Wells, also on the team live from our news center, 2 minutes to 6, starting the day with our local headlines.
Good morning. Well, Manitoba Hydro says it is going to take a decade for new wind farms to be built in this province, but new natural gas burning turbines planned for Brandon should be complete by 2030, staving off mid-winter power shortages. We'll hear more. As well, more than 100 people at Canadian Mennonite University last night singing not just in solidarity with Minneapolis, but in protest of ICE activity in that city. Agents, as you recall, shot and killed 2 people on the streets last month. CMU's Sandra Coop-Harder hopes to have more events where people can come and sing songs of protest and courage. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Well, what does a groundhog know anyway? Punxsutawney Phil and Manitoba Merv, the puppet, we're the only ones to say we're getting more winter. All the other groundhogs said spring's coming early, but we're going to revisit what happened yesterday anyway. So that's how we'll start this show. In addition to some serious matters, Gaza getting much needed relief. Israel has opened the Rafah border crossing between Gaza and Egypt. So we're going to look at what that's like on the ground and get some analysis in a moment on World Report. Also, Black History Month, now that we flipped to February, has officially started. 2 students locally are heading up celebrations at their Winnipeg school. They're going to join us about what they have plan and what messages they hope to send.
Today on Q.
I'm Talia Schlenger in for Tom Power. Beverly Glenn Copeland is a Canadian music legend, a singer, composer, and transgender activist whose work spans 6 decades. He'll be here with his wife Elizabeth to talk about their new album, Laughter in Summer, which they call a love letter to one another.
Laughter in summer.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Grief and shock are rippling through Canada's hockey community this morning. 3 junior players were killed in a crash on their way to practice. The accident happened about an hour outside Calgary. 2 of the 3 players were from Kamloops, BC. The CBC's Jonna Bailon reports.
Sad day today.
Nathan Bosa is the president of the Kamloops Minor Hockey Association.
I just got home from work today and I got a message from one of the local news reporters, and it just, are you aware of this? And I was like, no. So it's, you're trying to process it.
Bosa says Cameron Casorso and JJ Wright, both 18 years old, grew up playing hockey as part of the association. Casorso from 2012 to 2025 and Wright from 2011 to 2025. In a statement, the group said it grieves in solidarity with the Southern Alberta Mustangs as one hockey family forever changed by the loss of these young men. Condolences have been pouring in following the tragedy. The Chase Minor Hockey Association is located in the village of Chase, just east of Kamloops in BC. The group spoke to the closeness of the hockey community as players move between teams, saying in moments like this, we come together to support one another and honor the lives of these 3 boys. In a post on social media, local MP Frank Caputo also offered condolences, saying he is devastated to hear about the lives lost. Meanwhile, Bosa with the Kamloops Minor Hockey Association has a request for people across the country.
Put that hockey stick out tonight.
A reference to the placing of hockey sticks on the front porch following the deadly 2018 Humboldt Broncos crash in Saskatchewan. Jonna Bailon, CBC News, Vancouver.
A Newfoundland woman wants an inquiry into the death of her husband. Robert Power died in 2025. He was in an emergency room waiting for care. Mark Quinn reports.
I'm looking for justice and accountability for my husband. Betty Lou Power reached out after hearing a St. John's physician warn CBC that it's only a matter of time before someone dies waiting in an emergency department.
I wanted to set the record straight that it already happened in Newfoundland.
Power's husband, Robert Power, died at the Carbonear General Hospital on March 10, 2025. He was 69, a retired miner with a chronic lung disease.
We went over because he had a little shortness of breath. They triaged him and they put him out in the waiting area, and we sat there for 10 and a half hours, and he died in the chair in the waiting area.
Power has met with health officials but isn't satisfied. She's calling for an inquiry.
I'd like for the Newfoundland Health Services to know that my husband what happened to him was not a mistake. It was pure negligence.
CBC News asked the province's health authority for an interview and received an emailed statement. NL Health Services offered condolences and promised improvements are coming. It also said, quote, following triage, patients are encouraged to immediately notify the nursing team if their symptoms change or worsen while waiting. They may be reassessed and prioritized again. A St. John's emergency room doctor recently told CBC News that waits of 10 to 24 hours are happening in Newfoundland and Labrador. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
The Bank of Montreal has been slapped with a multi-million-dollar fine. Canada's banking regulator says BMO overcharged customers on discounted plans. Erica Johnson reports.
The Financial Consumer Agency of Canada has fined BMO $4 million for violating consumer protections in the Bank Act. A report from the regulator says the charges stem from discounted programs that BMO offered. They were designed to offer special benefits to newcomers to Canada, medical and dental students, Indigenous people, and home financing participants. But the regulator says from 2010 to 2024, employees at BMO incorrectly applied monthly plan fees that should have been waived or discounted. BMO estimates over 101,000 customers were financially affected. The bank has issued refunds and rectified interest charges at a cost of just over $3 million and made a $600,000 charitable donation for the amount that couldn't be refunded to accounts. The regulator said the $4 million penalty reflects, in part, quote, the degree of BMO's negligence in failing to implement adequate controls or monitoring. More than 500 customers had filed complaints. A BMO spokesperson said the bank holds itself to the highest standards of conduct, proactively reimbursed its customers, and reported the issue to the regulator. Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Former U.S. President Bill Clinton has agreed to testify in a House investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton will also appear before the House Oversight Committee. The couple had been facing contempt charges. The CBC's Aaron Collins joins me from Washington. Aaron, what can you tell us?
Well, Marcia, we know the former president and Secretary of State have agreed to testify before Congress's Epstein probe, and we know this is a 180-degree reversal from their position up until now. The Clintons had argued that this was a politically motivated request, even writing a public letter saying they would not appear just a few weeks ago. But pressure was mounting on the couple to testify, and it looked like the two could face charges of criminal contempt for failing to do so. They had attempted to cut a deal where they would avoid testifying before the committee, maybe give written statements or private sworn testimony, but that was rejected by the Republican chair of the committee, James Cofer, and the clock was ticking here. A vote to hold the Clintons in contempt of Congress was scheduled to happen tomorrow, so this reversal appears designed to avoid that.
What happens now?
Well, the Clintons are going to have to appear before this committee. We're not exactly sure when. The date hasn't been determined yet, but we know that the committee is interested in hearing from the former president about his interactions with Jeffrey Epstein. Bill Clinton did know Epstein. He flew on his private jet several times. It's less clear why the committee wants to speak to Hillary Clinton, who says she didn't know the deceased sex offender. But Marcia, sitting in former presidents have testified before Congress before this, but it's pretty rare, and it's been a while. The last time a former president appeared before a congressional committee was Gerald Ford over 40 years ago. And now a spokesperson for the Clintons says they hope the couple's appearance will set a different kind of precedent, alluding to the fact that no one should have an excuse not to appear before this committee, perhaps even including the current president, who also appears in the Epstein files.
Thank you, Aaron.
You bet.
The CBC's Aaron Collins in Washington. First Baptist Church was one of the first places of worship for enslaved people in Ontario. Many would find their way north to freedom and the church. The Toronto institution is celebrating a milestone this Black History Month. Talia Ricci has the story.
The sights and sounds of faith and community have been a mainstay at First Baptist Church for 200 years, home to the oldest Black institution in Toronto. Wendell Gibbs is the church's 45th pastor. He says after local white churches imposed impossible standards for former slaves to attend worship, 12 men and women who had escaped through the Underground Railroad started their own.
This church was just a hub back in the day, you can imagine, for everyone. All the immigrants who came generally gravitated to First Baptist Church because we're a Black institution, but for some reason the Blackness stayed, and people from Nova Scotia in the 60s just gravitated to us.
Today, the congregation is diverse, reflecting the ever-changing community of downtown Toronto. Kevin Dill has held many roles at the church. Currently, he's a minister.
I was married 40 years ago in this very same sanctuary. Yeah, and I've been coming ever since. So it's special to me. My children grew up here. They were baptized here. It's just transformed my life as an individual.
Rosemary Sadler, who helped introduce Black History Month in Canada in 1995, says this is a rare example of a Toronto institution that's been contributing to the city for 200 years.
For a very long time, and I think for many people, the idea that there have been Black people in this country, never mind that there have been Black people creating positive and purposeful institutions, is lost on most of us.
The church will reflect on that legacy as it hosts a special Black History Month service on February 15th. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
In Australia, a 13-year-old boy saved his mother and two younger siblings. The family was swept out to sea near Perth in Western Australia. The boy tried to paddle back to shore in a kayak, but the waters were too rough. So he swam 4 kilometers. Then when he reached shore, he had to run another 2 kilometers for help. Rescue workers were able to save the mother and the two other kids. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team at Information Radio. Let's start Tuesday together. Thanks for joining us. Right now in Winnipeg, pretty cold out there. We're beginning right around minus 22 this morning, but we will climb, and by Thursday, things look strangely warm in parts of southern Manitoba. Well, yesterday was Groundhog Day. We're going to talk to the human experts since the puppet in Manitoba said we're going to see more winter. I love that if the puppet said we weren't, we'd be all about it. But yeah, Manitoba Merv said 6 more weeks of winter. We're actually going to hear from Dave Phillips this hour from Environment Canada. Also to a serious story you've heard on World Report this morning about Gaza and what is happening. Will there actually be relief? How quickly will it happen now that Israel's opened the Rafah border crossing between Gaza and Egypt? We'll have a deeper, more analytical look at that this hour. And Ryan Tumulty will join us. It's Tuesday morning. We're going to talk about what's happening in Ottawa. This morning, who's the candidate that will likely lead the NDP? Now that the Conservative Party has firmly voted to put Pierre Poilievre back in place, or continue having him rather, as their leader. We'll find out who the leader is, the likely leader is going to be of the NDP. So we'll find out about that. Right now, Heather Wells is here to lead us through news headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, a Canadian senator is calling for a ban on sports betting advertising. Single-event sports betting was made legal in Canada in 2021. Senator Marty Deakin out of Ontario initially supported the legalization because of dangers of unregulated betting. but she acknowledges gambling advertising has gotten out of control. We're going to hear from her coming up. As well, Manitoba is still nearly a decade away from completing new wind turbines to generate more power. Manitoba Hydro says once completed, they will help add 600 megawatts of generating capacity to the electrical grid. Hydro says it is one way it plans to make sure there's enough capacity in winter. Those stories and more coming up at 6:30.
Heather, Abby, I had a moment on the long weekend here. I took yesterday off so that I want to tell you about. Okay, you ready for it?
Bring it on.
Walked into Superstore. Person beside me. This is Saturday morning. Now, Saturday morning, I don't know if either of you were out, but it was the wind.
The wind, it was crazy. It could blow you away.
It was pretty windy on Saturday.
It was so cold, right? So the temperature read well, but the wind made it freezing. And I'm walking into Superstore to do some get some groceries, and the person beside me goes, "Marcy," recognized me from work, and
always happens.
Yeah, happens a lot. I'm like, "Hey, yeah, hi." And she goes, "It's freezing." I'm like, "Yeah, I know it's freezing." And then we got into this exchange about how I'd lied to people all week.
Oh no.
Because of course you guys kept trying to talk me down, wind chill, Marcy, wind chill, but I was so fixated on the high of -9 or whatever it was. And yeah, I'm like, I know, I lied to you. I'm sorry.
It didn't feel like the temperature was supposed to be warm. You weren't lying.
I know, but the wind is like brutal. I felt colder to me than on those days where we had dry and actual -25 last week. I think we're going to kind of have today and in the next couple of days, we've got some gusty, windy days too, right, Abby?
Yeah, but first we're tracking this more like a weak weather system that's going to be bringing in a mix of sun and clouds with a chance of light snow as temperatures will be hovering below the seasonal average that we're supposed to be having for most of the regions. Looking at conditions in Winnipeg and the Red River Valley region as at now, we're seeing current temperatures hovering around -22. It's clear outside. With morning temperatures, it will hover near -29 before we climb to a high of -9 for the day. Though we will see sunshine this morning, then that will be followed by light snow, and we will notice that brisk south wind around the noon period. But watch out this morning, the wind chill, Marcy, it's still going to be close to -35, which means it's a risk of frostbite if you're making transition from one bus to another. And those tonight, the snow is still going to be hanging around, but it will taper off, and we'll see some clouds just hang back before temperatures get back to about -14. Up north, we're seeing temperatures up north around -18 in most of the regions. I don't even see any staying close to 20 up north. We're seeing mostly -18s, though light snow falling. It's expected to stay steady near that, and we'll see highs near -11 for the northern part of the province. Though around Tuduli Lake and Churchill, we're seeing that temperature around -23 at this time, around the afternoon period, and we'll get some blowing snow with the wind chill dive bombing close to -38. Down south, we're seeing -12s in some areas around Dauphin and -25 in Gimli with light winds from the south. But Winnipeg right now, we're looking at -22. It's clear, and we get to about -9 later.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Sarah Sanders is in to update our commute this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy. Not too much going on out there as we kick off this Tuesday's show, but want to let folks know if there is something that gets in your way or there's some backups, whether you are here in the city or out on the highways. I would love to know what you're seeing out there. Give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
Well, now the question is, did Manitoba Merv lie to us? He saw a shadow yesterday, which predicts at least 6 more weeks of winter. It was Groundhog Day yesterday, of course. But can the rodent puppet be trusted? David Phillips is a climatologist with Environment and Climate Change Canada, and The Human spoke with CBC host Faith Fundel on Up to Speed.
It's funny, Faith. You ask 10 groundhogs what the forecast is going to be, and you get 10 different answers. But you know what? You ask 10 meteorologists what the forecast is going to be, and you'll still get a variety. So, hey, it's not a pure science, but clearly, I woke up this morning and I saw my shadow, and so I think it is going to be 6 more weeks of winter. Of course, for Canada, we're the second coldest and the snowiest country in the world. 6 weeks, if you could promise me that on Portage in Maine, the winter will be over by March the 15th, I take it in a heartbeat.
Yes, that's what someone else said earlier today. It's like, 6 more weeks, sure, we'll take that.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I look this week, Faith, and I see, my gosh, on Thursday, I see possibly a high of 2 degrees, plus 2 degrees. I mean, that's 12 degrees warmer than normal. So, there is some summery-like weather or warm weather around, and you probably are looking at in Alberta, and you see 10 degrees today in Calgary and 18 on Thursday. Edmonton, 6 degrees today and 13 degrees on Wednesday. And even in Saskatoon, minus 6 today, certainly a lot warmer than it's been in Winnipeg, and plus 5 on Wednesday. So we're seeing a zonal flow, a west to east flow. So this warm air is coming. We see the polar vortex has gone home. Faith, it's back up there in the high Arctic, and it's just spinning around to the top of the world like it's good, and won't maybe come down. And so we clearly see that there is some springy-like weather in the air. We're gaining 3 minutes a day, Faith. I mean, so you can walk out on the streets of Winnipeg and you see that sun angles getting a little higher above the horizon. So you feel that warmth on your skin. And at the end of this month, it'll be like almost 4 minutes a day. And that sun angle will be about 32 degrees. So gain maybe about almost 10 degrees. So, hey, it's picking up. And I think the forecast is looking pretty good when I look at the models. And for February, I mean, we've had a tough cold, no question about it, Faith, the cold December and January, no question about it. And not a record cold, but it's been, on average, colder than normal. You did have a January thaw, but it was kind of short-lived. And we've had, I think now, about 18 days in a row where we've had temperatures below the freezing mark, morning, noon, and night. So we see that possibly changing on Thursday with that temperature getting above the freezing mark. So I think there's some good news out there, and our models are saying, I'll come to the quick on this. The models are saying for February, when we look at it, now of course it doesn't say that every day is going to be milder than normal, but what it says for Manitoba is that things look like they're going to be milder than normal. And when we look at the longer period, that is February, March, and April, it's saying that, hey, certainly from the Manitoba Lake southward, it looks like it is going to be a little milder than normal. Even if cold comes back, Faith, at this time of the year, that cold doesn't really last as long. You don't go 10 days, 14 days. It may be a 2-day wonder. And also, it's not as intensely cold. You don't get those, I know you've had minus 52 wind chills already, but my sense is that it's hard for it to go back to that because of the sun angle and gaining daylight. So my sense is you've weathered the worst part of winter. When I look ahead, I think there's still some winter to come. We still see some colder temperatures, but they're not going to wear you down psychologically because they're not going to last that long.
You're right, though, because when you experience or feel the minus 50, or it feels like minus 50, anything warmer than that seems to be a blessing, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And that's a good point. We get acclimatized to it. Again, I said December was, and it was hard for us, for people in Winnipeg in December, because you had the warmest fall on record. I mean, Faith, if you look at September, October, November, Manitoba in the last 80 years has never been warmer than this past year. And then November, it turned out to be, actually milder than normal. So December was like a gut punch. You went from sweat to slush. It was just absolutely like nature turned on you. And we saw some really cold temperatures. And so I think it was even Winnipeggers have to get acclimatized to the change of seasons. And it just wasn't that opportunity. But by now, hey, we've weathered the winter weather wars. We've had December colder than normal. We've had January colder than normal. Yeah, we got a little bit of a thaw, but we've also had a long-lasting freeze. And so my sense, it's almost as if what nature can give you, you can handle it. You've seen it worse. So my sense is that I think things are going to get better. Psychologically, we need that. You need kind of a pickup, some hope in the future. And the groundhog in some places today in Canada or around North America, they gave us hope. I think Manitoba Merv, right? He doesn't. But when you look at the chances of a groundhog seeing his shadow in Manitoba on this particular day, I did a study on how often that would be. And it leads Canada in terms of about a 78% chance of a groundhog seeing his shadow with winter carrying on. But you compare that to like places in the Maritimes, it's only about a 40% chance. In Toronto, it's maybe a 48% chance. So my sense is because the air is often dry and cold and it's sunny, the groundhog is likely to see his shadow and head back down under the ground.
David, I will give you 100 cents if you say winter weather wars 5 times fast, 3 times.
Faith, I had that written down. I couldn't. I can't say it. Then the pressure on me would be too much. You're going to have to try somebody else.
Maybe we'll ask Corey Funk. We'll see.
Okay.
David, it's always good to hear from you. Thanks for this.
Thank you so much, Faith. Bye-bye.
David Phillips yesterday on Groundhog Day in conversation with Faith Fundal about the winter and the actual forecast ahead. Of course, Phillips is a climatologist in Environment and Climate Change Canada here in this country. Time right now is 6:23 a.m. and let's look at international news and take a moment to step away from this country. If you were listening to World Report this morning, then you know that what is seen as a vital lifeline for the people of Gaza started yesterday with reopening. I'm talking about the Rafah border crossing between Gaza and Egypt. It has been closed since May 2024 when Israel closed it during the war with Hamas. Now, Rafah is the only border crossing in Gaza that does not pass through Israel. The number of people crossing across it is being limited. It still represents a big opportunity, though, to get sick and injured Palestinians out and some humanitarian aid in. Rula Kikia is a humanitarian advisor for the international programs with Save the Children and with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
I know it just opened yesterday, but paint us a picture of what's happening at the border now and according to the latest info that you're getting.
So what we're seeing at Rafah is a very small door opening in front of a very long line. The Rafah border crossing with Egypt just partially reopened, allowing only 150 people to leave and 50 to return each day. And this is a small number under strict conditions. Priority is given to critically ill patients, and according to media, as of this morning, only 5 Palestinians in critical conditions were allowed to leave. We know there are thousands of children, at least 4,000 children, who urgently need medical evacuation. And at this pace, it would take years to get them out. My colleague in Gaza spoke with a mother whose 12-year-old son required medical evacuation abroad, but she could not leave her 4 other children in a makeshift tent under such harsh circumstances. No mother should have to make these kind of choices. The families in Gaza are watching this closely, hoping for news, but many feel stuck in limbo, and this opening is important, but it's far from enough to meet the scale of needs.
What are you hearing about why only 50 people being allowed through?
This is because of the priority given to critical ill patients and because of the strict conditions are put on the border.
Tell us about the humanitarian aid. Have you heard on that front if trucks are moving through?
Yeah. So since the Bolton hostilities, there has been a small increase in aid entering Gaza, but it still falls far short of what children and families need. So when aid is blocked or delayed, the impact is immediate. Every day, aid and goods are prevented from reaching those who need them most. Children will be killed. Children will go without food, clean water, medicine, warm clothes, and shelter. These are basic needs, and without them, children get sick and die from preventable causes. Humanitarian aid needs to move safely on a consistent base and without restrictions. And right now, that's still not happening at the required scale.
The number CBC is reporting after talking to a doctor on the ground in Gaza City at Al-Shifa Hospital says about 20,000 Palestinian children and adults are in need of medical care. Is that, just to reiterate here, is that the same number that you believe in terms of, to contrast with the trickle going through right now? How many people would you say are in need of urgent care right now medically?
So according to the Ministry of Health, more than 1,000 patients have already died while waiting to leave for urgent medical treatment. And as I said, we know that there are thousands of children, and at least 4,000 children need medical evacuation. And with the current conditions, they will need years to go out and get the treatment that they need.
What are you watching for right now in terms of what is happening in the conditions? In what needs to be done right now for those that are stuck in Gaza waiting to cross over?
The most important thing is safe, consistent, and unimpeded humanitarian access. All crossing, including Rafah, need to be fully open and fully operational for both people and aid. And humanitarian assistance should be guided by children's needs, by families' needs, not by limits on numbers or trucks. Palestinian children have already suffered years of war and blockade, and what they need now is consistent and safe access to food, medicine, water, shelter, medical care, and education. And this should happen every day, not occasionally.
Thank you for your time this morning, Rula, and for updating the situation. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
That is Rula Kikia, humanitarian advisor for international programs with Save the Children. She is in Ottawa about reporting what her organization is seeing on the ground. If you want to read more about what's happening since that border reopened yesterday, you can go to our national website at cbc.ca.
Local news is in decline across Canada, and this is bad news for all of us. With less local news, noise, rumors, and misinformation fill the void, and it gets harder to separate truth from fiction. That's why CBC News is putting more journalists in more places across Canada, reporting on the ground from where you live, telling the stories that matter to all of us. Because local news is big news. Choose news, not noise. CBC News.
The year of the horse gallops in, and CBC invites you to celebrate. Experience the 2026 Manitoba Chinese Business Gala, February 6th at Club Regent Event Center. An evening of networking, food, performances, and awards. Celebrate the Chinese Lunar New Year and recognize the remarkable contributions of Manitoba's Chinese business community. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for more.
Hey, the games start on Friday, the Olympics, right? Just a reminder, CBC is a sponsor, which means you're going to get all the very latest action right here. And during our morning show, what that means is starting Friday morning at 25 past the hour, you'll get your Olympic updates from Milano Cortina. And also Friday, of course, we'll be teeing up other performances, getting ready for opening ceremonies, but also celebrating our athletes. We have 4 Manitobans heading to the games, and you'll be hearing more about their stories and prep. If you already have missed some of those interviews on all of our programs here, you can see profiles soon as well on cbc.ca/Manitoba. But Friday, the Olympic Games start. So our Olympic updates, by the way, 25 past the hour, as I mentioned. So 6:25, 7:25, and then it'll be 8:25 as well, leading into our news. It is -22 right now, clear in Winnipeg. Your commute's been fine. Call if you have a problem anywhere in Manitoba at 788-3093. And stay with us because we're going to hear how Canadians have left more than $2 billion on the table from the government. Yeah. Turn up your radio. That's coming up in Business News right after we hear our CBC local news from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is -22, so a cold start to the day. Clear right now, but clouds are going to move in by about noon today, bringing with them periods of light snow, and we warm up. A high today of -9. A Canadian senator is calling for a ban on sports betting advertising. Single-event sports betting was made legal in Canada in 2021. Senator Marty Deakin out of Ontario initially supported its legalization because of the dangers of unregulated betting. But she acknowledges gambling advertising is getting out of control.
Canadians across the country, they're being exposed to ads for companies that only Ontarians can legally bet in. It's not right. It's not fair if some provinces and territories have held back privatizing their own betting markets because of the risk of gambling addiction.
Deakin has co-authored a letter to Prime Minister Carney calling for an outright ban of sports betting advertising in Canada. She has also sponsored a bill through the Senate to establish national guidelines on sports betting advertising. Manitoba Hydro says it is going to take a decade for new wind farms to be built in this province, but new natural gas burning turbines planned for Brandon should be complete by 2030, staving off mid-winter power shortages. Hydro Communications Director Scott Powell says there is a new plan for the Crown Corporation to save and generate more electricity.
We wouldn't put a plan out that we thought wouldn't meet the needs of Manitobans in terms of a reliable, safe, and affordable energy supply. We're quite confident in this, but that being said, obviously it's a living document, and as conditions, if we start to see conditions change going forward, we'll be adjusting that plan, obviously.
Manitoba Hydro aims to make an additional 2,000 megawatts of power available to consumers by 2035. 3 junior hockey players are dead after a car crash south of Calgary. The victims wore the jersey of the Southern Alberta Mustangs. U.S. Premier Hockey League team based in Stavely, Alberta. Last night, the Calgary Flames paid tribute to the teenage players.
A hockey family is a tight-knit one. We stand together in support of the Mustangs organization and extend our deepest sympathies to all those grieving this unimaginable loss.
The victims include 2 18-year-olds from Kamloops, JJ Wright and Cameron Casoro, and 17-year-old Caden Fine from Alabama. Reaction is pouring in from across Canada. On the platform X, Prime Minister Carney writes, "My heart breaks for the families of the 3 young players killed in a car crash near Stavely. Canadians are keeping the entire Southern Alberta Mustangs community in our thoughts as they face this unimaginable grief." Premier Danielle Smith says the whole Alberta hockey family is standing with you in sorrow and in prayer. You can hear more on this story as well as other national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. Premier Wab Kinew plans to announce his support for a new national marine conservation area off Manitoba's Hudson Bay coast. The NDP government says it will kick in money for a feasibility study for the waters of Churchill, potentially all the way from Nunavut to the Ontario border. It will be done in conjunction with the federal government, Indigenous communities, and Parks Canada. Marine conservation areas are managed by Parks Canada. Singing in solidarity. More than 100 people at Canadian Mennonite University last night singing not just in solidarity with Minneapolis, but in protest of ICE activity there. Agents shot and killed 2 people on the streets last month. CMU's Sandra Coop-Harder says people here are yearning to take action of any kind.
There's something that's really special about singing together. You use your whole body to do that, and it's like a communal prayer. And it really is, I think, something that clearly all the people here felt that they needed tonight.
Coop-Harder hopes to have more events where people can come and sing songs of protest and courage. Salvaging a point.
Here's a chance. Perfetti shoots and scores. A tremendous setup. Velarde finds Perfetti, who is hot, and it's 2-1 Winnipeg.
Goal for Perfetti in the second period in Dallas there on TSN. But the Stars would steal the show, beating the Jets 4-3 in overtime. Winnipeg Jets head coach Scott Arniel.
That was a game that was winnable. Second period we got up 2-1, and really we got sloppy with and without the puck. Especially through the neutral zone. But at the end of the day, we hung in there and had a pretty good third period. I know they scored that goal, but we found a way to get ourselves back at the end.
The Jets come back home now to play their final game before the Olympic break tomorrow, hosting the Montreal Canadiens. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Let's get into this regional forecast on CBC. Abby's got your detail.
A pretty cold start across the regions. To start the day, though, we'll see sunshine giving way to incoming clouds and light snow for the southern part of the province, while up north, we're preparing for temperatures to fall fall, and we will be noticing, sharp wind chills for most regions up north. For Winnipeg right now, it's still around minus 22. It is clear outside. We'll see the temperatures for the day, like between now and the noon period. It's going to hover near minus 29 before climbing to a high of minus 9 for the day. And that sunshine is in the forecast for the morning before we see the light snow and those winds coming from the south near the noon period. Just watch out for the wind chill this morning. You will notice it. It's going to feel like minus 34, which means it's a risk of frostbite in play there. Wednesday, we should see highs near minus 5 for Winnipeg. For the Pembina Valley region, Morden, Winkler, Alton, and Morris, all the way down to the U.S. border, we're looking at temperatures around minus 21 at this time. Also clear conditions there, heading to a high of minus 6 with periods of light snow and morning wind chills near minus 30. For Brandon, tracking it towards Nipawin, we're seeing mostly cloudy conditions there, light snow spotted here and there, a risk of freezing drizzle also coming your way. Highs will be around minus 5. In the Parkland region near Dauphin, we're tracking minus 11 with light snow and freezing drizzle likely this morning, reaching a high of minus 4 on the light breeze. While for Gimli, we're seeing some frigid conditions there, minus 25, minus 26, depending on where you are. A few clouds warming up to a high of minus 12 with light snow by the afternoon, and a dangerous morning wind chill near minus 38. For the power, flame influence surrounding communities, you are sitting around minus 14, minus 15. Light freezing drizzle also spotted in that part of the province. You warm up to minus 8, though the wind chill feels like minus 22 for that part of the province. While in Thompson, we're around minus 18 at this time with light snow. Highs will be around minus 12. For Tuduli Lake, minus 15, light snow. So there, temperatures will only fall to minus 23 by the afternoon period. And the wind chill will be around minus 35, so there's a risk of frostbite in play. And lastly, in Churchill, minus 17 at this time. We're noticing some light blowing snow in that part of the province. Temperatures only drop to minus 22 this afternoon, while the wind chill, it's going to do that deep dive to about minus 38, close to minus 40. So you need to take it easy. So overall, Marcy, it's more like it's going to be staying frosty today with a bit of snow moving through and then wind chills across the northern part of the province. But for Winnipeg right now, we'll enjoy some sunshine to start the day before the sun comes. And we are seeing temperatures around minus 22 at this time.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
And now to the commute, based on the fact that your paper in front of you is blank, Sierra, I'm guessing it's pretty quiet.
It's been pretty quiet on the commuter line so far this morning, which I think is good news. It sounds like things are moving pretty smoothly out there on your drive. But if that's not the case and something has popped up that's getting in your way, or there's been a situation that you want to tell me about, I'd love to hear about it. Whether you are here in the city or out on the highways, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
All right, thank you. Well, Crystalie Ramlakan joins us via Zoom right now with our business news this Tuesday morning. Hi, Crystalie.
Hey, good morning, Marcy.
So Canadians have left more than $2 billion on the table from the government. What's this about?
Yes, and this is by not cashing millions of paper checks that have been mailed out by the federal government. So almost 4 million checks issued over the past 4 years went uncashed, and they include tax refunds, pension checks, and other benefits such as carbon rebates. So the now canceled program was designed to offset the cost of carbon pricing, but even though the program has ended, government checks never expire and can be replaced if they are lost or damaged. So taxpayers can check out their Canada Revenue Agency accounts to see if they have uncashed checks, or they can call the agency. Also, almost $43 million for families through the Canada Child Benefit, which is a tax-free monthly payment meant to help with the expense of raising children, also went uncollected. Now, only about 9% of federal payments are made by check, but obviously some money is still not getting to some people. So the federal government says it prefers to pay Canadians by direct deposit. So you might want to sign up for that if you can. And, issuing paper checks also comes with admin costs. So the millions of checks mailed out over the past 4 years likely cost taxpayers about $222 million.
I found a couple when I was doing my purge, actually, but I think I auto deposited them with the imaging. So I think
Okay.
they were actually in there, but I wasn't sure. But I did find a Colonel's gift card, so I got some popcorn.
Ooh, nice.
Which still worked. I think it dated back to 2018 or something.
Wow.
Let's talk about something more valuable than that. Elon Musk is joining two of his companies, and that is apparently creating the most valuable private company on Earth. What can you tell us about this?
So Musk is joining his space exploration and artificial intelligence ventures into a single company before what's expected to be a massive initial public offering later this year. SpaceX has bought xAI, and the deal will combine the AI chatbot Grok, satellite communications company Starlink, and social media company X. Now, Musk has said speeding up the development of technology could allow data centers to operate in space. So he believes that could address the problem of the huge costs in electricity and other resources in building and running AI systems. Now, Google is also working on a research project that would equip solar-powered satellites with AI computer chips, but Musk's prediction is not shared by many other companies building data centers, including Microsoft. And Musk has also been facing stiff competition in artificial intelligence, where he's been scrambling to compete against rivals such as OpenAI, which is also working toward an IPO. And also happening today, Paris prosecutors are conducting a search right now at the offices of X in France as part of a preliminary investigation into a range of alleged offenses, including the spread of child pornography and deepfakes.
Okay, pretty serious stuff there. Finally, today, a large cosmetics company that most of us know has been fined for using forever chemicals in some of its products. What can you tell us?
Yes, that's right. So Estee Lauder has been fined $750,000 after federal agents found it was using these forever chemicals in some of its eyeliners. So the company has pleaded guilty to 2 counts of violating the Canadian Environmental Protection Act. And the substance found is a silicone polymer used in makeup to increase hold, durability, and water resistance. But it's also among the class of substances known as PFAS, and that's a group of more than 1,200 chemical compounds whose failure to break down easily in the environment or the body has given them the name forever chemicals. So the government says the company was required to notify it before importing, selling, or distributing products with the substance and failed to do so. So in 2023, environmental officers issued an order outlining the steps the company had to take to comply with the law, but the government says the company did not follow the order. And advocacy groups say they are pleased to see the government enforcing chemical reporting rules and holding companies to account.
All right, Crystal Lee, thank you.
Thanks, Marcy.
Crystal Lee Ramlicam with our daily business report. 6:44 a.m. is the time right now on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. We're going to have a look at what's going on with the NDP still ahead this half hour, so stay with us. We'll talk about the candidates who would like to lead the NDP, the challenges they may face, and also who looks like the front runners. So that is coming up this half hour. If you stay with us here at Information Radio, we hope you do. Thanks for being with us on CBC. Clear -22 in Winnipeg, light snow in Brandon and Thompson, where it is -18 in both of those cities. Well, a bit of music next. We're leading into Valentine's Day here, coming up in a few weeks. And Canadian singer-songwriter Rhea May has a brand new album out. She's actually on tour with it throughout this winter, but she released this next track last year on Valentine's Day. She calls it her favorite song she's written because it's about her wife, and it's called Her Magic.
I feel my heart beat double time. My head is spinning, baby, all the time. Around the world at the rate I'm flying, all consuming, I ain't even lying. This feeling you can't describe. Her magic, lay it on me. Connection you can't deny. Her magic, lay it on me. She on rewind, all of my thoughts on rewind all day. Her magic laid on me. I wanna wake up next to you. Feel your head on my pillow, still dream. Oh, you and I on an island, fall asleep lie awake. This feeling you can't describe. Her magic, lay it on me. Connection you can't deny. Her magic, lay it on me. She stays in my head. She stays in my bed. That look on her face. Every word she said. All of my thoughts on rewind. All of my thoughts on rewind all day. Her magic, lay it on me.
Her Magic, that is from Nova Scotia's Ria May. She is currently on tour. It's 13 minutes to 7 o'clock.
The Olympics feature the best curling talent on the planet, while in Winnipeg, slightly less talented curlers gather to throw rocks on the frozen Assiniboine River. Rock the River is back February 6th to 8th in support of the Heart and Stroke Foundation. Enter a team and join CBC to experience a Canada Mixed Curling Olympic matchup live streamed on the frozen river. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for more.
It is 12 minutes to 7 o'clock, as I've mentioned. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You are with CBC's Information Radio live in downtown Winnipeg. Thanks for being here. Still ahead after 7 on the show.
It's not up to one person to bring about change. And it's that when we connect with each other and we bring about unity, that is when change really is something that can be magnified.
We're going to hear from 2 Shaftesbury High School students, including that student, who are organizing Black History Month celebrations and events at their school here in Winnipeg. We're going to hear about their hopes for the future and what they hope we all can learn from the history of the past. So stay tuned. That's coming up after 7. I mentioned the current temperatures in Winnipeg. We are going to be mainly sunny today. Our high -9, but be aware of that wind chill. It's going to feel so much colder with -34. Middle of the week is what everyone's going to be talking about around the water cooler, though, because by Thursday, I guess near the end of the week, I should say, but by Thursday, our high is 3 in Winnipeg. And Brandon, your high is 6 degrees by Thursday with lots of sun. So there's probably going to be some serious melting with that kind of weather forecast coming. Well, we have just received confirmation that CBC and The Morning Show, and that means myself and Corey Funk and our videographer, Prab Lotte, are going to be in Brandon, speaking of which, so we're pretty excited. This is the end of March. We're coming out for a series of shows the week of March 30th, and if you live in the city of Brandon, you know that's a big week because it is the week of the Brandon Royal Manitoba Winter Fair, which is the premier agricultural event. It's been running since 1906. All the equestrian shows, the community exhibits, all the livestock and the different agricultural fair shows that are included with the fair. So much going on. And so we are going to be there broadcasting live. So that's going to be for a series of special shows at the end of March. And we're really looking forward to that. It is 10 to 7. If you have a story to pitch for us, by the way, for Brandon that you think should be part of those shows, you can give us a call. Start pitching now, 204-788-3205. Well, we have a bunch of people making their pitch to be the leader of the federal NDP. The last federal election reduced the NDP to 7 seats in the House of Commons. They lost official party status. Leader Jagmeet Singh was one of those MPs who was not sent back to Ottawa. He resigned that night, election night. So the slate of 5 candidates to replace him is set. Delegates will head to Winnipeg in March to choose their next leader next month. So Ryan Tummel's here to tee it up if you haven't been following this, political reporter with the Toronto Star. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, good morning.
So we have this list of 5. Who are the front runners for the next NDP leader, do you think?
Yeah, I put three people in that camp. Rob Ashton, who's a union leader, really well known in BC, and I think it's excited some people in the way that he's talking during the campaign. Avi Lewis, who has so far raised the most money. Not that I'm sure money is going to be the central factor in this race, but he's a documentarian, he's a filmmaker. He's been a candidate for the party in the past. He's well known in the party. He's got a family history in the party. And then Heather McPherson, who's the only sitting MP in this race. She is the only person who has won a seat in the House of Commons from Edmonton. I think she's going to, she's going to make that sort of pitch to delegates that she's won before and she can win again.
So I said 5; those are the front runners. But tell us about the other 2 who have hopes to lead the party.
Yeah, there's 2 other candidates in the race. Tennille Johnson, who's a municipal councillor from Vancouver Island, and she was a candidate in the last election for the NDP. And then Tony McQuail, who's an Ontario farmer, perennial candidate for the NDP, has run multiple times, has never won. He's putting his name forward for this as well.
Is there division in the party, or is there unity about how to move forward?
I think I wouldn't necessarily call it division, but there is differences of opinion about what the party should be going forward. And I think on some level, this is a really healthy exercise for the NDP because they can talk about who they want to be going forward. The party has traditionally appealed to union and labor groups. So, think port workers, mine workers, people who build cars, things like that. They've always had a big pitch there. But they've also appealed to sort of, it's called the downtown progressive set. Sometimes what those 2 sides want can be different. And I think that has been one of the challenges for the party in the last few years. We've seen the Conservatives really go after that union vote, and successfully. They won quite a few seats in the last election that way. Avi Lewis is pitching public banks and public grocery stores and public telecoms, more on the left side of the party. Heather McPherson, I think, is pitching sort of a bit more of a status quo of what the party has been over the past couple of years under Jagmeet Singh. But, I think there's a lot left to figure out for the party, and this is part of that exercise.
And some major challenges, whoever it is that's gonna take the party on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they have 7 seats, which is not enough for official party status. We talk a lot about not having official party status, but I think, what that really means is not having resources. They don't have the money to pay staff to do research, to help them write new legislation, to, communicate, to do, media relations, things like that. They just don't have the people. So that is a real challenge for the party. They have fundraising challenges. Not having official party status also means they don't have any seats on House of Commons committees, which means, they don't have the same ability to slow legislation down or speed legislation up that they had in the last parliament. So I think that is a big problem for the party, and certainly something that will continue.
How has the NDP attempted to exert influence in Ottawa, given that, since the last election, given that they don't have that voice?
Yeah, well, I mean, they've done pretty well with the influence that they have. Some of the MPs have secured major projects in their own ridings, helped get government funding for that. We've seen them, during last fall's budget discussions, they abstained on the budget vote, which kept the government alive. But they didn't get much for that compared to, if you think back to the, Justin Trudeau, Jagmeet Singh, and the supply and confidence deal. Last parliament, they were getting dental care and pharmacare. This parliament, the wins are much smaller.
All right. Well, we'll leave it there for this morning, Ryan, and see what happens next. Thanks for your time.
All right, thank you.
That's Ryan Tumulty, a political reporter with the Toronto Star. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us this morning on Information Radio. It is Tuesday. It is 5 to 7. Heather Wells will be in a couple of minutes with headlines here. In the next hour of our show, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about Black History Month. It has officially started. It is always the month of February. We're going to hear more about what these Shaftesbury High School students are doing in their school, what they've organized, but also what their message is for the future about learning about the past. So they're going to be in studio. In addition, in the next hour, we have been following the story of Lisa Wiebe. I interviewed Lisa a couple of years ago. She was homeless on the streets of Winnipeg and in Steinbach and talked about what that was like. She actually did this incredibly powerful photo documentary series where she just took photos of her daily life as she didn't have a roof over her head. Well, this is now, as I mentioned, years later. And Lisa Wiebe has written a piece that you can read at cbc.ca/Manitoba this morning about what it is like for her now. As she puts it, she lives with the aftermath, the lingering trauma that never quite leaves her after she has lived homeless. So what does that mean and what needs to be done to help others in her situation? We're going to hear a feature interview with Lisa Wiebe coming up in the next hour of Information Radio. Plus, you might have been following the numbers of measles cases in Manitoba. They are up. They are the highest since last May. The majority of cases are still in rural communities. We're going to hear from a pastor in Steinbach, and that is because he has been having conversations with people in the community about vaccinations for measles. And so we're going to hear more through his perspective and of his perspective in the next hour of Information Radio. So all of that is coming up. Plus, one more thing I want to mention. I usually wouldn't mention it this early, but this is a really interesting one. It's after 8 o'clock on the show. So like I always say, time your shower accordingly. Because now that we're in February, it is, the month of love. But is some of that love going to AI? There's been a lot of reports about people getting emotionally attached to artificial intelligence. So how do Manitobans feel about that? And how does it impact human relationships? We're going to talk to University of Manitoba ethics professor who's been looking into this. And we're going to hear your thoughts on it too. So stay tuned. That's coming up later. Right now, to tee up your headlines ahead of World Report's national and international news, Heather Wells is in next. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, Manitoba Hydro says it is going to take a decade for new wind farms to be built in this province, but new natural gas burning turbines planned for Brandon should be operational by 2030, staving off midwinter power shortages. We'll hear more. And more than 100 people at Canadian Mennonite University last night singing out not just in solidarity with Minneapolis, but in protest of ICE activity in that city. We'll take you there in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Well, forecast-wise, as we've been mentioning, it'll feel colder than the temperature today because the high is -9, but with a wind chill, it'll feel like -34 in Winnipeg. Nice, clear, sunny day, though, so as long as you've got the window closed, it'll feel warm on your skin. Clear, though, and -22 is the current temp. If you need us in traffic, call Sierra at 788-3093. So far, so good. We're still ahead of rush hour. So a lot of sand and salt down in the city, I did notice. So I think that's maybe improving things as well. You can give us a call from whatever city or community you're in across Manitoba and let us know how your commute's going. Stay with us. World Report is next at 7.
On the current.
Life is literally buzzing under our feet.
It is called mycelium, the underground parts of fungi that form a web in the dirt. And the scientist Toby Kears is here to tell you why it's even more interesting than you might think and why she has dedicated her life to studying it. That's coming up on The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland. And on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Many in Canada's hockey community are mourning the loss of 3 young players.
The Calgary Flames and entire hockey world are saddened to learn of the passing of 3 members of the Southern Alberta Mustangs junior hockey team who were tragically killed in a motor vehicle accident south of Calgary.
A moment of silence was held during last night's NHL game in Calgary. Police say the teenagers were on their way to practice when their vehicle collided with a semi-truck.
A hockey family is a tight-knit one. We stand together in support of the Mustangs organization and extend our deepest sympathies to all those grieving this unimaginable loss.
18-year-old J.J. Wright, Cameron Casorso were both from Kamloops, and 17-year-old Caden Fine was from Alabama. Police say the 40-year-old driver of the semi-truck was treated for minor injuries. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is back in the Middle East today. Witkoff is meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The visit comes as the U.S. continues its military buildup near Iran. But Tehran is signaling it wants to de-escalate tensions. The CBC's Sasha Petrusik is in Jerusalem. And Sasha, what do we know about this meeting between Netanyahu and Witkoff?
Well, Israel will be pushing the United States through Witkoff to add a couple of things to the demands that the U.S. is making of Iran. Specifically, Israel wants to make sure that Iran does not have a big arsenal of ballistic missiles. Secondly, it wants Iran to stop funding these various proxy groups like Hamas in Gaza or Hezbollah in Lebanon. And it wants the U.S. also to say that has to be done. Otherwise, again, there could be an attack. Interestingly, though, neither of these two points seem to be at the top of Washington's list. Washington is going to be pushing for Iran to cut back or eliminate its nuclear program, which Israel also wants. But it's not the only thing on that list. And people here are actually quite nervous about an attack, which they are not sure that Israel's air defense system would be able to handle if it was an all-out attack, as Iran is threatening.
How important is it that Israel and the U.S. be on the same page in these negotiations?
It is important, but as with anything with Trump, it's not clear that whatever Israel's priorities are the same priorities as U.S. priorities. And with the U.S. these days, it's not clear, in fact, where all of this is headed and whether an attack is, in fact, serious from the United States. Israel is very worried about it, though, and has been beefing up its own defenses for weeks now.
Thank you, Sasha.
My pleasure.
The CBC's Sasha Petrusik in Jerusalem. A high-profile trial begins today in Norway. The son of the crown princess is facing multiple charges, including rape. This is only part of the shadow being cast over the royal family's image. The crown princess also has extensive links to the late Jeffrey Epstein. Anna Cunningham has more.
Marius Borg Hebe is the son of the future Queen of Norway, Crown Princess Mette-Marit. His stepfather, Crown Prince Haakon, describes him as an important part of our family. Hebe faces 38 charges. They include 4 counts of rape, the domestic abuse of a former partner, and the illegal filming of a number of women without their knowledge or consent. He is currently being held in custody after being arrested Sunday on suspicion of assault, making threats with a knife and violating a restraining order. This trial starts as the Norwegian royals face multiple crises. Crown Princess Mette-Marit's name appeared nearly 1,000 times in the latest release of the Epstein files. She admits to poor judgment in her friendship with the US convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, a man she described as such a sweetheart. The princess is also in need of a lung transplant. She was diagnosed with the chronic lung disease pulmonary fibrosis 8 years ago. Norway is a constitutional monarchy.
I don't see it as a crisis of the monarchy as an institution,
says historian Ole Jørgen Skolerud Hansen.
I think that the institution has a longer perspective than these years.
He adds, but today the Norwegian parliament will vote on whether to replace the monarchy, as it does every 4 years. Although it's not expected to succeed, it may gain stronger support than in previous years. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
Governor-General Mary Simon will be in Greenland tomorrow, the next stop in her Arctic tour. She's in Norway today, meeting with the King and taking part in the Arctic Frontiers Conference. The trip is part of the Carney government's plan to bolster Canada's influence in the region. The CBC's Chris Brown is in Nuuk, Greenland. And Chris, what is the mood there?
Well, Marcia, I'm down by Nuuk's waterfront. Beautiful light blue icebergs are just floating past me. This is really shaping up to be a big week for the Arctic and especially for Canada. And for Greenland, people here in Nuuk, for them, this crisis caused by Donald Trump's attempt to coerce them into giving into U.S. control, it still feels very much alive. And the Foreign Minister, Vivian Motzfeldt, was speaking about that this morning at a conference that she was attending in Tromsø, Norway.
What we have been going through have been intense and hectic. While we are working hard to address and solve the issues that has put Greenland on the global agenda, it is important to acknowledge and appreciate the support and solidarity with us.
The conversations that we've been having with Greenlanders also suggest that no one here thinks that this is really the end of Donald Trump's efforts to gain control. So with that as the backdrop, Canada is sending in a large high-level delegation. Governor General Mary Simon, Foreign Minister Anita Anand, and many Inuit representatives are all going to be coming here to Nuuk to be here for the opening of a new Canadian diplomatic consulate. The idea is to enhance Canadian diplomatic support for Greenland, but also to try to encourage more ties between the two different peoples. And this is being seen as a welcome development, as an example of the kind of international engagement that Greenlanders want, rather than threats to dominate them. Marcia.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you.
The CBC's Chris Brown in Nuuk, Greenland. Heart issues are a growing risk for Canadians. That's according to a new study from Heart and Stroke Canada. Helena Mahalik reports.
I didn't really heed the warnings of my doctors.
Alana Trainoff was 40 when she had an unexpected heart attack that would alter her daily habits forever.
You know, changing those habits earlier, taking medications that were recommended for some of the health issues that I was already starting to have as a young woman.
As someone who smoked frequently and lived a sedentary life, Trainoff knew things needed to change. Heart and Stroke Canada's data says only half of adults meet their daily exercise requirement. Trainoff says her heart attack was a big wake-up call to start her health and fitness journey.
It can be very overwhelming for people sometimes to try to make all of these changes at once, and you don't need to, because I think any small step in the direction towards choosing your health is the best possible step that you can take.
Diet also plays a huge role in heart health. And the study says 1 in 10 Canadians have been eating less fruit and vegetables since 2015. Guillaume Perret, a professor of pathology at McMaster University, says it's thanks to the economy.
Unfortunately, the healthier diet are also, in most cases, the more expensive ones. And I think that makes a big difference for Canadians, especially in this, current context.
The Heart and Stroke Foundation is calling on people to take the Heart and Risk Screen tool, for healthcare providers to provide credible tools to managing risk symptoms, and on the government to implement policies that support healthy eating. Helena Mahalik, CBC News, Saskatoon.
A 13-year-old boy in Australia is being hailed as a hero after saving his mother and 2 younger siblings.
It kind of all went wrong very, very quickly.
Joanne Appleby describes the moments before she decided to send her son Austin to shore. The family had been out paddleboarding and kayaking near Perth when they found themselves being swept farther away from the shore. That is the moment when the 13-year-old Austin headed out for the 4-kilometer trip back on his kayak, but it began taking on water.
And I just started swimming. I did a bunch of different strokes. Freestyle, trying to get there quicker, and breaststroke to get under the water and not fight the waves. And when I hit the bottom of the floor, I just, it was like, how am I on land right now? Is this a dream?
Rescue workers were able to save his mother and 2 siblings. Amazing. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We are live in downtown Winnipeg, and thanks to Corey Funk for filling in for me yesterday. Tuesday morning, going to be a cold one with that wind chill. Temperature will be okay. It's just going to be a little windy today. Abby will talk to us in a minute about the weather. This hour on the show, Black History Month has officially started. 2 students are heading up the celebrations at their local school in Winnipeg. We're going to talk to them about what they have planned, the messages they're hoping to send for the future as we learn from the past. So stay tuned for that. Also this hour, we're going to meet a Manitoba woman who survived homelessness. Yet she says she still lives with trauma from her life on the streets and is always mindful that she could be homeless again. We have a first-person piece written that she wrote on our website, and this is someone that actually we've talked to years ago as well. So we've been documenting her journey at CBC. She's been allowing us into her life, and we're going to hear from her in a feature interview this hour. Plus, measles cases continue to be up in Manitoba. They're the highest since May right now. We're going to talk to actually a pastor from Steinbach. He had a lot of conversations with folks around COVID vaccine hesitancy, and so we're going to talk to him for some perspective now around measles and the conversations from his perspective that are happening in the community. Right now, Heather Wells is in live with our news headlines at 11 minutes past 7. Hey, Heather.
Good morning. Well, a Canadian senator is calling for a ban on sports betting advertising. Single-event sports betting was made legal in Canada in 2021. Senator Marty Deakin out of Ontario initially supported its legalization because of the dangers of unregulated gambling. But she acknowledges gambling advertising has gotten out of control. We're going to hear from her coming up. Premier Rob Canoe plans to announce his support for a new national marine conservation area off Manitoba's Hudson Bay coast. The NDP government says it will kick in money for a feasibility study for the waters off Churchill, potentially all the way from Nunavut to the Ontario border. Those stories and more coming up in our next news at 7:30.
The Premier's here on Friday, Heather. We sure have a lot to talk to him about when it comes to Churchill.
Absolutely.
I've been deep reading all the articles now about how they're trying to fast track these icebreakers. And we think we know a lot about icebreaking in Manitoba because of the flooding, and we certainly do. But this is different technology that the military uses in the Arctic. And could this open, the port more year-round rather? And all of these announcements that are coming fast. So it'll be really interesting to see how much he can share with us.
Yeah, and Rob Canoe really has been a huge cheerleader of opening that port.
He has, yeah. And then alluding to the company that he says is, going to be seriously looking at it. He hasn't named anyone, but so that's Friday. Here, we'll see what happens. Thank you.
Thank you.
In the weather forecast, Abby, the cold spot now is like minus 30.
Yeah, in Sprague, Marcy. And then we're looking at warm spot around Dauphin this morning already in the province. Conditions right now, we're seeing that bright condition really moving our way, though it's a frosty start across the province. Sunshine down south will be giving way to light snow moving through the regions. No warnings, Marcy. However, the wind, frostbite is something we need to take into consideration this morning, as the wind chill is still in the range of minus 34 to minus 35 across the southern region, so you need to take it easy out there. Current temperatures, we're still around minus 22 both at the airports and at the Forks. We're going to see temperatures hover around minus 29 all morning. Expect sunshine, and then that will be followed by some cloudy conditions, light snow as the breezy southwest winds bring a high down to minus 9 later in the day. Across the southern region, we're looking at minus 14s to minus 11s, while up north we're seeing minus 15s to minus 18s. Light snow already taking over that part of the province. We'll see highs, temperatures just going to stay steady for the northern part of the province. But for Winnipeg right now, it's clear outside. It is minus 22.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Let's get into traffic with Sierra Sanders.
Good morning, Marcy. Not too much going on out there. The commuter line is quiet this morning, which is usually a good sign that things are moving smoothly out there on your drive wherever you are commuting this morning. But if that's not the case and there is something that has popped up that is getting in your way and is causing some backups, I'd love to hear about it. Wherever you are driving this morning, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number is 204-788-3093.
Well, as I mentioned, it is Black History Month, and every February that honors the experiences, the achievements, and enduring contributions of Black communities across Canada. Celebrations are going to be popping up around Winnipeg and the province all throughout this month. In the Pembina Trails School Division, 2 students are organizing and leading the way for celebrations and events at their school at Shaftesbury High School. Zion Abera and Praise Olowoyeye are in grade 12, and they are the co-presidents of Shaftesbury Diversity. That's a student-led group. It focuses on celebrating and uniting diverse cultures at school. And they're in. Good morning.
Good morning.
So tell me, Zion, about what you have planned so far at Shaftesbury.
Yeah, so
So far, Shaftesbury Diversify has hosted our first ever annual event that we hope to continue doing last year called Our Land, Our Home. And it was a multicultural event where students were able to showcase creative talents from across different cultures. And really just, it was a great event to bring everyone together. And we're doing a similar one this year as well.
Now, I keep saying diversity, but in fact, it is Shaftesbury Diversify,
Yes.
which is critical. So I apologize for saying that wrong. What does it mean to the two of you to be involved with this? Like, what motivates you to do the work?
When we first started this club/committee, it was really important that we were creating that community for students to feel respected, accepted, heard, and seen, because we too would want that for ourselves. And so being able to be in that position to lead the actions that could be taken so that students are able to build those connections was very impactful for us. And then seeing that impact in the students around us was also very fulfilling.
I love that. I'm writing it down. Respected, accepted, heard, and seen. You should sell shirts that say that. I would totally buy one of those to support as an ally myself. So I wonder where you haven't felt, as young Black women in our community, respected, accepted, heard, and seen. What kind of experiences have you had?
I think it can be experiences all across different spaces. I don't think it's set to one particular experience or one particular space. I think the important thing is not having allies or people similar to you around you to feel supported and feel like you have that community who's willing to hear you out and listen to what you have to say and what you have to bring to the table. And so it was really important for us with Diversify to create that community and create that foundation for our school so that once we graduate, the people coming up behind us have that space already built for them.
I love that. It's like I guess it's like a legacy of sorts. Like it's like you said, you're building something.
Yeah.
And how about for you? What has your experience been like in our community where you feel like, okay, obviously we have work to do?
Mm-hmm. I think as someone who immigrated to Canada, it was definitely rough at first, like figuring out where I fit in. And so like not having that place built for me, like Zion has says, and then now being in that position to build it, it's like seeing what it's like to not have that community, that environment. And so just trying to channel that like past experience into a more positive one for future students coming in, future community members, I think is what like really pushes us forward.
Nigeria, right?
Nigeria, yes.
So the theme this year of Black History Month overall is honoring Black brilliance across generations, from nation builders to tomorrow's visionaries. How's the theme present in some of the events that you're organizing? What would you like to highlight in terms of specific things you're doing?
I think when just coming in with the intent of all the activities and all the events we're planning for Black History Month, it was really important for the theme to be prevalent in our intent. And so this year, every Friday, we'll be present on the announcements at our school, and we'll also be hosting some fun trivia at the front foyer just to get everybody excited about Black History Month. And we're also very involved in decorating all our bulletin boards. But our main event is going to be hosting a STEM panel with different Black and POC university students and medical professionals, just to showcase their experiences as Black and POCs in these difficult fields, but also because we recognize a lot of people in our school really are interested in STEM and would love to get into it, but also may not feel like they have anyone to look up to or have anyone who's been there already, who maybe can mentor them or lead them or show them a little bit of what it's like. And so it was really important for us in particular to host something that obviously follows the theme, honoring Black brilliance, but also setting something behind for the people at our school.
You guys are right on point with that. Of course, you might have been hearing some of the national stories about the lack of research across this country in Canada, like for people in the healthcare system for Black people, and then by extension, they just don't get the care that they need, especially women.
Yes.
Especially women. So having that panel is a really great idea. Who reached out? Like, how did you guys put that panel together to say, hey, will you come and talk to the students?
I think we first discussed between ourselves, like, what do we want to see? And then after that, we looked within our own communities, like in our friend groups, in our church groups. And we were like, we have so many people in these fields, and it's like, we have the chance to give them a space to be heard, seen, and to share their stories. And we also have students who need to hear that experience, to see the experience. And it's like it just connected itself, knowing that we have the information, we have the people who would like to receive the information. And so it was just working with our principals, finding a way to create that bridge, and then the planning. And so we just reached out to our community members. Oh, would you be willing to speak out to the students? And we've talked to our friends and like, would you guys like this opportunity? And they're like, yes, everyone's so excited to take part in this experience that we're trying to build.
Yeah, I bet. So what are your hopes for the future?
I think
Because
especially
one of you is taking poli-sci.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Is that you?
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me why you're going into that, or why you're thinking that's going to be good, Zion.
I think poli-sci particularly really drew me just because I've seen, particularly in government and in law, spaces where people like me maybe not have had the opportunity to make a lot of change or make a lot of impact, or maybe we've had the ideas but we've been overshadowed. And I feel like it's a good place for me to try to do something, and for me to try to look at the people who've come before me and learn from what they've done and learn from their experiences, and also try something new and put my own impact and put my own experiences there as well.
And praise criminology.
Yeah.
Right? Why that?
I think for the longest time, I've just always been someone who's willing to defend the cause that I stand for. And so obviously in criminology, you will have to defend people against the law, with the law. And so I think to be able to like see how history has obviously proven that sometimes the law can be like misguided, can be misused. I think I just want to be in a position where I can help other people create those changes using the law, because that's what supports everyone. And so the foundation needs to be strong. It's people who are there enforcing the law, making those laws, and I'd like to be in that position to help other people in the future.
This is like such an uplifting conversation, right? In Manitoba, and here we are as Canadians at this time. Yeah. It's important. You guys are choosing important fields. I guess last, what do you hope to teach the teachers with your events for Black History Month? What do you hope stays with the educators?
I think what I hope stays with the educators the most is just to be unafraid to try new things and to stand up for what they think is right. And also that you may not have to be Black or a POC to still stand for these causes and to still believe in what's right and go for what's right. And so I hope that they're able to see this and support new students coming in who maybe feel comfortable opening up to them, or who maybe want to take over our places and start leading their own things. Or I hope they also see this as a sign to also take initiative on their own, to maybe host these events without student help, and just to guide students and make them feel comfortable to now say, oh, if my teacher can host this, maybe I can too.
Well said. And praise, last word for you. What do you hope to teach the teachers?
I think overall, Zion has really said part of what I would like to say. So just building off of that, I think it's also teaching the teachers that like they're also learners as well, and that they don't have the answers to everything. They don't have all the experiences, obviously, because they've lived lives a certain way. And the students coming in, they're just beginning their lives. So I think them being open to getting the students' perspectives, their experience, their perceptions as well, and then being that guiding force for them. I think people think that teachers are know-alls, like they know everything. But I think just knowing that teachers themselves, they, in every step of the way, they're still also growing and learning. So I think they just need to build that connection with the students to know that we'll grow together and I will support you in any which way you need. Yeah, going forward.
Come back anytime. Loved having you guys here. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So in studio live with us, Zion Abera and Praise Olowoyeye are in grade 12 at Shaftesbury High School. They are co-presidents of Shaftesbury Diversify. Their group's organizing, as you heard, some different Black History Month events and celebrations at their school. If you want to keep up with what they have planned, by the way, you can find them on Instagram at Shaftesbury Diversify. And for more information on those events and celebrations, you can also head overall to what's happening in Winnipeg for this month. A whole bunch of things we'll be featuring. But you can go to Black History Month, BHM, bhmwinnipeg.com.
The world is counting down to the Milano Cortina 2026 opening ceremony. A bold celebration of Italian art and culture, united by the Olympic spirit. Featuring show-stopping performances by icons Mariah Carey and Andrea Bocelli, and a tribute to Giorgio Armani. Plus the Parade of Nations with Team Canada. It all begins Friday, February 6th at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, live from Milan. Watch free on CBC and CBC Gem.
7:25 a.m. and this is when we're going to have our Olympic reports daily starting on Friday at 25 past the hour right here on CBC. Well, it's time for our daily sports report with Scott Regier, who's in this morning again. Good morning.
Not going to lie, Marcy, hearing that Olympic theme and getting ready to do those, to host the Olympic reports, you're on a tight, you're 5 minute to the second window. Always a little stressful when that Olympic theme comes up and I was like, okay,
I know.
Let's go. Let's time out here. Let's time out.
You'll be great. You're always great. Today, let's talk about what's not so great. It wasn't to be again for the poor Jets last night. What a season.
Oh, man, snake bitten to the end. 4-3 loss in Dallas in overtime last night. A game that featured multiple Olympians. Americans Connor Hellebuck and Jake Ottinger faced off in net. Finland's Miro Heiskanen hit a couple of assists for Dallas, while fellow countryman Mikko Rantanen had a couple of points himself. It was a non-Olympian, though, who ensured that the game would go to OT with the Jets' net empty. Logan Stanley wired home his 9th goal of the campaign. Prior to this, the big defenseman had only ever scored once in a season. Now, despite the personal success, Marcy, Stanley was lamenting what might have been an overtime.
Anything can happen in overtime. We get our best player on a breakaway, and goalie makes a great save. They make a really nice play and win the game. So it's obviously frustrating. So we would have liked to win tonight and be 3-1 going home after the road trip. We're desperate for points right now. We need to win them all. And usually you're happy with a point at the end of a road trip in a tough building like this, but that one stings for sure.
Yeah, they do need points. They're 9 back of the final wild card spot at the moment, with just one game before the Olympics. That is tomorrow night when the Jets host the Habs.
Now let's go to Olympic news next, and it's not actually good news for Canada's figure skating team, though.
No, pairs team Maxime Deschamps and Diana Stellato-Dudek are not going to compete in the team event, which goes Friday in Milano. It is down to an injury Stellato-Dudek suffered in training. A devastating turn for an athlete with one of the game's most compelling backstories. A star skater who represented the U.S. at the youth level. Injuries forced Stellato-Dudek to retire. She didn't take to the ice for 16 years. While working as an esthetician and attending a business retreat, she was asked during a team-building exercise what she would do if she knew she could not fail. And that sparked a remarkable return to the sport. She and Deschamps ended up claiming gold at the 2024 World Championship. Canadian Olympic teammate Madeline Skeesis was asked her thoughts on the injury.
It's obviously devastating when a longtime member of your team gets hurt, especially, in the final days before an event like this. Like, it's everyone's worst fear. It was definitely mine. So I think we're all just thinking of her. We're quite close. We've roomed together at many events. We text, and so I just really feel for her, and I'm thinking of her. She's living everyone's worst nightmare, and I really hope that she has a good support network around her, and I know that she does.
So we still don't know the nature of Stellato-Dudek's injury or whether it will prevent she and Deschamps from competing in the individual pairs competition. That's not till February 15th. If she does compete there at age 42, she would become the oldest woman to compete at an Olympic figure skating event in close to a century. Canadian champions Leah Pereira and Trent Michaud will compete in the pairs portion of the team event instead.
All right, well, good vibes to her.
Yeah.
To another global sporting event, though, the World Cup next, where the head of FIFA is now calling for Russia's return.
He is. Gianni Infantino says the national teams from both Russia and Belarus, who've been banned since the invasion of Ukraine, should be allowed to come back. Here is Infantino speaking with Sky News.
At least at youth level, because this ban has not achieved anything. It has just created more frustration and hatred with girls and with boys. I even think we should look into our own statutes and see whether we should not enshrine that we should actually never ban any country from playing football because of the acts of their political leaders. Because somebody needs to keep the ties open.
Those comments, Marcy, have prompted Ukraine's sports minister Matvei Bidny to call Infantino, quote-unquote, irresponsible, if not infantile. He points out that since Russia's full-scale invasion, more than 650 Ukrainian athletes and coaches have been killed by Russians, many of them soccer players. Since its ban in 2022, Russia has been unable to compete in any major tournaments, a far cry then from 2018 when that nation hosted the World Cup and where Infantino was awarded the Russian Order of Friendship Medal by President Vladimir Putin.
All right, Scott, we'll leave it there. Thank you.
You bet.
That is Scott Regehr with CBC Sports. Your news from Manitoba is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. It's 7:30. It is cold. It's minus 22. And there's a risk of frostbite this morning, but then this afternoon clouds move in. We're expecting some light snow, a southerly breeze, and we warm up to -9. A Canadian senator is calling for a ban on sports betting advertising. Single-event sports betting was made legal in Canada in 2021. Senator Marnie Deakin out of Ontario initially supported its legalization because of the dangers of unregulated betting. But she acknowledges gambling advertising has gotten out of control.
Canadians across the country, they're being exposed to ads for companies that only Ontarians can legally bet in. It's not right. It's not fair if some provinces and territories have held back privatizing their own betting markets because of the risk of gambling addiction.
Deakin has co-authored a letter to Prime Minister Mark Carney calling for an outright ban of sports betting advertising in Canada. She has also sponsored a bill through the Senate to establish national guidelines on sports betting advertising. Manitoba is still nearly a decade away from completing new wind turbines to generate more power. Manitoba Hydro says once completed, they will help add 600 megawatts of generating capacity to the electricity grid. Hydro spokesperson Scott Powell says it's one way the Crown Corporation plans to make sure there's enough capacity in winter.
Obviously, we've got the 750 megawatts of the natural gas or biomethane fuel combustion turbines that will help meet peak capacity demands in cold winter days and also help backstop, in addition to our hydropower, but help backstop that additional wind power that will be coming online.
Those natural gas burning turbines are expected to be built in Brandon by 2030. Hydro is trying to stave off a midwinter energy shortage, which could happen as soon as the next 3 years. The hockey community is in mourning following the deaths of 3 junior hockey players in Alberta.
The Calgary Flames and entire hockey world were saddened to learn of the passing of 3 members of the Southern Alberta Mustangs junior hockey team.
From last night's Calgary Flames game. Earlier in the day, just south of Calgary, 3 junior hockey teammates were killed when the vehicle they were in collided with a truck. 17-year-old Caden Fine was from Alabama, and 18-year-olds J.J. Wright and Cameron Casorso were both from Kamloops. Both were former members of the Kamloops Minor Hockey Association. Here is Association President Nathan Bosa.
You know, our association has upwards to 1,300 kids in there. So you would think that, you know, with that many kids, there'd be a lot of distance between the players. And it's simply not the fact. Like, the kids know each other. They support each other. You know, this is going to hit hard for sure.
That crash happened as the players were on their way to practice. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. Premier Wab Kinew plans to announce his support for a new national marine conservation area off Manitoba's Hudson Bay coast. The NDP government says it will kick in money for a feasibility study for the waters off Churchill, potentially all the way from Nunavut to the Ontario border. It'll be done in conjunction with the federal government, Indigenous communities, and Parks Canada. Marine conservation areas are managed by Parks Canada. Well, more than 100 people gathered at Canadian Mennonite University last night to sing in solidarity with Minneapolis and protest ICE activity. The event was part vigil, part community chorus, offering space for those troubled by events like the fatal shootings at the hands of ICE agents. Holly Smith's partner has family in Minneapolis who have been helping organize protests there.
I really feel for my partner, and we've cried. You know, we talk it out. I don't think there's such a thing as not paying attention to the news when it affects you.
Smith says singing can help people express themselves during hard times. And forcing overtime.
Stanley shoots, score! Logan Stanley takes the drive, and we are tied at 3.
Logan Stanley in the third period there on Dallas, in Dallas on TSN. But the Stars are first to find the net in overtime, beating Winnipeg 4-3. The Jets still skate away with a single point. Jets captain Adam Lowry says it was a fairly even game.
Tough way to end it, but I liked how we stayed in it. We were able to get one. Obviously, two, is super critical for us at this point. But to see them score and us to get one late to at least salvage a point.
The Jets play their final game before the Olympic break tomorrow at home, hosting the Montreal Canadiens, and that is a 6 o'clock start. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Poor Logan Stanley, just because he's having like a great year, but it's within a really rough season for the team, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
And there are rumors swirling about perhaps a trade involving Logan Stanley and Detroit, so we'll have to see how that plays out.
All right, thanks, Heather.
You're welcome.
To the regional forecast now on CBC with Abby.
The real story today is the wind chill, Mercy. We're pushing towards the -40 mark in the northern part of the province, and for the Interlake region as well, we're tracking that mark around -40. It's going to be a snowy transition day as we see morning sunshine give way to some cloudy conditions, and light snow will move through the province. In the south, we're seeing that cold spread between -17 and -25 at this time. Highs will be close to -4 in some areas out west, while we're going to see -9 in the Red River Valley region. Up north, the mercury is actually dropping this afternoon to about -23 in Churchill, and the severe wind chill close to -40 will kick in with some blowing snow. Winnipeg right now -22, and it feels like -34.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Now to the morning commute with Sierra Sanders.
Good morning. Not too much going on out there. It's still quite quiet. The commuter line has been pretty quiet this morning, but I did just get a call from Chris. Not necessarily with a backup or something bad going on out there, but he called to let me know he was driving down Disraeli, and someone bought a billboard for their mother's 80th birthday.
Oh, cute.
Saying, "Happy birthday, Mom." I asked him if there was a name. He didn't quite catch if there was a name or not, but someone bought a happy 80th birthday for their mom. So if you're listening and you bought that billboard for your mom, I'd love to hear from you. Give me a call on the commuter line, because I'd love to know about your mom and her 80th birthday and the billboard that you got for her on Disraeli. So happy birthday to whoever is turning 80 and has a billboard in honor of them and their 80th birthday.
That's so cute.
So a little light in this little bit of winter that we're going through. So thank you for Chris for that little call. That was very sweet. But if there is something that is going on out there and you want to let me know about it, whether it's a birthday billboard or maybe some backups, I don't know, whatever's out there, I'm here for all good and bad things. Give me a call. The number is 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Sierra.
Thank you.
22 minutes to 8 o'clock. It's Tuesday morning, February 3rd this morning. Next on the show, it has been 6 years since Lisa Wiebe has lived homeless. She spent months living on the streets of both Steinbach and Winnipeg. And while Lisa survived those days of homelessness, she still lives, she says, with the trauma of what she went through. Today, she has a roof over her head, but she still lives in poverty. CBC has been following her story for some years. That means, though, her life now means accessing mental health supports that she needs, and she says that is especially challenging. Lisa Wiebe wrote about her experience today, using her own photographs as well to document her story as a first-person piece for our CBC Manitoba website, and you can see it there this morning at cbc.ca/Manitoba. But she also, in a feature interview, sat down with CBC's Corey Funk yesterday.
So, Lisa, let's start back actually in 2019. You have a home, you're off the streets, but you write in your first person that from the start, quote, the threat of ending back on the streets hovered over your head. So tell us a little bit about that feeling that you live with.
Well, it was like a massive fear that anything that I could possibly do wrong would land me right back at square one of being back on the streets again.
And also, you also are a parent as well. How does that play into that feeling, that extra layer of responsibility?
It felt like I was failing, 100% failing my children in every way possible.
So how, in your day-to-day, do you work with that and move forward with that feeling?
Well, it's kind of just taking it 1 minute at a time, most of the time, just not thinking about it mostly, is just try and set a better example. Like if I have to live in poverty, then at least try to make the best of it.
Is that what compelled you to take some of these pictures as well, kind of taking these snapshots of your life?
Absolutely. Yeah. It was documentation of what I was going through, and just a picture is worth 1,000 words. And I didn't have all the words to describe how I was feeling or what I was going through. So taking the pictures was a therapeutic way of describing what I was going through without needing to find the words.
Let's look at one of those photos. So I'm looking at one of those on our website. It shows you walking along a road. There's a store at the very end of the road. And what was that moment in your life? What are we kind of looking at here?
That was when I was living in Blumenort. I didn't have access to the internet or like Wi-Fi access where I was living, and I didn't have an actual phone connection. So I had to walk to find public access Wi-Fi every day in order to just keep in contact with anybody. So that's when I took that photo.
And why did you decide to take that photo? There's a message that you wanted to send out to the world in that moment?
Yeah. Even after finding housing, the need to continually be on the move, it stays with you. Like just because there's a roof over your head, it doesn't mean you feel automatically safe and not needing to walk or move. Because when you're homeless, you've got to constantly be on the move. You can only stay in one place for so long to stay safe. And that feeling doesn't go away once you've found housing. And so that picture was taken as a way of explaining, like, you don't stay still. You have to continually be on the move.
And you've also written that both life on the streets and that lingering trauma you still have, even though you are now housed, has actually impacted your physical health as well. Can you just tell us a little bit about that experience?
Well, when you're homeless, you've got only certain things on your mind, like shelter is kind of at the bottom. You've got your basic needs of eating and just surviving. And that also doesn't go away after you get housing. And for me, I couldn't find access to food very often. I couldn't find ways to get to the doctor. So my physical health went down. Like I was diagnosed with malnutrition probably about 3 or 4 months after I got off of the streets. And I still struggle with that to this day, the malnutrition, not being able to properly digest solid food. I have osteophytes, bone spurs in my neck from carrying heavy weights of like my personal belongings in my backpack, and like everything else that compounds with that. Like my physical body cannot handle stress anymore. I will spend days just kind of being unable to even properly move from the pain.
And what does a day in the life look for you now? So you are housed, but of course you're still living with this stress, this trauma. What does life look for you now?
I still pretty much live the same way I did right after finding housing. I still have to get up and go out every day and walk several times a day, sometimes a few miles at a time, not just because I still have to be on the move, but I still live quite rurally. So in order to access certain things, I still need to get out. I still have to walk to access stores and food and all of those other necessities. So it hasn't changed so much. The circumstances around surviving have changed because I don't have to look for shelter anymore. But the fear of losing my home is still right at the top of the list. So every day is still waking up and fearing that I'm going to end up homeless again, fear not knowing when I'm going to eat again.
And what would it take for you to finally feel a sense of relief that, hey, I can move on now, and that if things get worse, there'll be something there to catch me?
I'm not even really entirely sure. I've become so accustomed to not having that safety net that it isn't even a thought ever in my daily life. Like, it's just making sure I make it from one day to the next. So a safety net would be probably getting proper mental health care.
How hard is it for you to access that?
Right now, I live in Crystal City, and that's about 40 to 45-minute drive away from Morden, which is the nearest place where I can access mental health. Right now, I'm lucky. I have a counselor through Eden Health, and he's been very great about allowing me to speak to him over the phone instead of trying to actually get there.
And has that made a difference for you?
Because of all of the different fears that I have because of the trauma that I've been through, it can be very difficult to talk on the phone. It's also very difficult because I can't afford a proper phone. So if, like, I have a prepaid, so sometimes it's disconnected because I don't have the money to pay for the next month. So in those cases, I kind of have to let go of being able to access mental health.
If you had the ear of those in charge, what changes to the social safety net would you recommend to help those who are in your situation?
There has to be more done about accessing mental health. There's a lot of people that think that the homeless issue just kind of will go away if you have them housed, which is a huge thing. Obviously, we need more affordable housing, but on top of that, there's like, if you end up homeless and you're not mentally unwell, you will be by the time you find housing, because there's just so much trauma involved in being homeless. Just putting a roof over your head doesn't solve all of that. And it's sometimes easier to just go back to being homeless than it is to stay housed, just simply because of all the trauma and living in that fear of ending up homeless again. It almost seems like it's easier to just give up and end up back on the streets. So there has to be something done more about being able to access proper mental health in order to deal with that trauma.
Well, Lisa, thanks for your time, and really appreciate you sharing your story through photos online, but also with us as well.
You're welcome.
That was Lisa Weeb speaking with CBC's Corey Funk yesterday. If you want to read her story in her own words with her photos as well, you can see her piece on our website this morning at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
The year of the horse gallops in, and CBC invites you to celebrate. Experience the 2026 Manitoba Chinese Business Gala, February 6th at Club Regent Event Center. An evening of networking, food, performances, and awards. Celebrate the Chinese Lunar New Year and recognize the remarkable contributions of Manitoba's Chinese business community. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for more.
What a beautiful sky we've got over downtown Winnipeg this morning. There's some pink in it. There's some blue in it. It's just really pretty. We sure have some pretty days out the window. We'll have another one where the sun will stream in, but beware the cold. A high -9. Sounds good, but with wind chill -34. So I don't know what your office is like. People go out for lunch here at CBC and come in, and those of us who've been inside will be like, oh, it must be nice out. It looks so good. And people are like, no, it's cold. It's the kind of day we're going to have once again today. Well, next on the show, let's look at some numbers. Across the province, there were 51 cases of measles in January, the highest we've seen since May, when the cases hit 72 in a month. The majority of the cases are people who are not vaccinated against the disease. Southern Health's Dr. Devinder Singh spoke with CBC's Faith Fundal yesterday about why we're seeing those numbers and what's behind it.
We do talk to some families where, maybe they thought that their child was up to date with all their immunizations, or they got busy in their life and somehow an immunization appointment got missed. But for several people, unfortunately, despite having this outbreak going on in Manitoba for basically a year, and for all of Canada for longer than that, it still hasn't changed many people's minds on the importance of immunization against measles.
If folks have not yet been convinced, what else do you think needs to be done to be able to change that?
Well, I think it comes down to a lack of trust in the people conveying the information, in the sources about where the information comes from. It boils down to a lack of trust.
That was Dr. Singh speaking with CBC's Faith Flundell about the number of measles cases in the province in January. Kyle Penner is co-pastor at Grace Mennonite Church in Steinbach. Now, he has spoken to members from his community in the past about vaccine hesitancy, including before the COVID pandemic, and he's agreed to weigh in this morning with his perspective. So he joins us via Zoom. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
So given that you've been in some of these community trusted conversations and you're in a trusted role, what's your reaction with what Dr. Singh said there, that there's a lack of trust toward health officials?
Yeah, in my experience, those people who are under-vaccinated or experience vaccine hesitancy usually have had bad experiences with people in authority, either government or health or education or family or religious or somewhere. And so they actually trust themselves and their own sources rather than external sources that we would trust.
What's your message if someone is struggling around this topic with having conversations even with a friend or loved one? Because unfortunately, things like this can also lead to some divisions with people.
Yeah, so similar to during the COVID-19 pandemic, shame and blame are not really great motivators. None of us really like to be shamed and blamed, and we don't. That's probably not our first move. When, for any difficult conversation where people might disagree about the best actions, I always say this. Number one is establish that we're on the same team. We all want happy, healthy lives and for our communities. We might have different understandings of how to get there, different paths. And so, but if we can establish we're on the same team, then we're not enemies. Then we're friends and we're neighbors and we're family working towards the same goal. And then the second thing to do is to reaffirm that our relationship is not at stake. That if we leave this conversation choosing different pathways, we can still be friends. We're still family. We're still colleagues. I will still like you. You are still a good person. And if we can do those two things, that actually lowers the temperature and lowers the stakes. And then we can actually have productive conversations to figure out what's underneath and why we aren't trusting our healthcare professionals.
Have you had your own faith questioned because of your stance on vaccines?
Yeah, but, none of us change our minds, very easily, including myself. And so in my tradition, there's some, Christianity is wide, right? Big and diverse. And so, yes, there's some people who think that not getting vaccinated is a sign of trust in God will look out for them. And to that I say, yeah, when my kids were little and I made a bath for them, I tested the water. I still wear a seatbelt. I don't use physical safety as a litmus test for trust in God. I would also say in our religious tradition, we have a story where the devil takes Jesus up on a mountain and says, jump off and God will take care of you. And Jesus is like, no. So I wouldn't use vaccination as a test about how faithful we are to God.
How difficult is it to have a conversation like this without being seen that you're trying to put pressure on someone? Because this is obviously these are people's individual decisions about vaccines, though health officials and scientists would urge people to get vaccinated.
Yeah, so in that case there, again, we know that one of the best people to talk to is your healthcare provider. And so part of our job as religious leaders is to say, go talk to your doctor. I am not a doctor. Go talk to them, please. I'm lucky enough to have healthcare professionals in my church that I can refer people to, multiple ER nurses and doctors and public health nurses. But within that, though, part of the challenge, though, I think for all of us, not just those of us who are part of religious communities, is how do we interact with people when we disagree and they choose actions that we disagree with and don't like, and we want them to do something differently. And so I'd like to think that the question, yes, please get vaccinated. But the other question I always ask is, how do we love those in our lives who aren't? We're lucky enough with measles that most of us are vaccinated. I know some of us are not. And I know some of us are immunocompromised. And then we can set boundaries and say that we can't do this. But for most of us, we who are on team vaccine, we're not at a high risk of measles sending us to the hospital. And so then as much as we encourage people to get vaccinated, I'm actually also interested in how do we love those who aren't?
I was talking about the province recording 51 cases of measles in January. As this is your personal perspective, but as you said, you describe yourself as being on team vaccine. So
Yes.
how concerned are you when you hear that then?
I am personally not. My family and my friends are all vaccinated, and I'm lucky enough to have that. I understand that for people with newborns or people who are immunocompromised, they don't have that same confidence. So that is a very different story for them. But the 51 people across the province, there's very little of it happening down on this side of southern Manitoba. Most of it is on the other side. That might change in a week. I know how pandemics work. But honestly, for most of us in Steinbach, measles is not front and center like COVID was a couple years ago.
I was going to ask as a last question, as you've been in conversation with people about COVID, and vaccinations at that time, what's the difference between those conversations around vaccines and vaccine hesitancy or people's choices and so much then and now?
Yeah, so the difference is like we're all if we wanted to be vaccinated, we can be now, right? So that helps. We also know that the measles vaccine has been tested for decades and it works. Part of the vaccine conversation over COVID was the new mRNA vaccine, which I think is great, but it was a new thing, and some people are afraid of trying new things. I understand that. And other than that, I think one of the things that's interesting is I've often wondered if we went back to a significant pandemic again, what we would all do. And I think we'd all line up in exactly the same camps. We would just get there quicker and we'd be angrier faster. And so I think part of this one for me, and I think for most of my communities, we're not talking about it front and center because for most of us, our personal safety isn't at risk. Our hospitals aren't being overrun. And also there's this piece where I think we all just need a little bit of time to heal. And remember that those of us who choose differently are still good people who still love their families and still love their communities. And those of us, and that's an important part of this, I think, as well.
Thank you very much for being with us, Kyle Penner. Appreciate your time.
You bet. Have a great day.
Kyle Penner, with his perspective, co-pastor at Grace Mennonite Church out in Steinbach. The province does say there were 51 confirmed cases of measles reported in January. It is the highest we've seen since last May, when cases hit 72 in a month. It is 3 minutes to 8 o'clock now on your Tuesday morning, February 3rd. Thanks for being with us on CBC's Morning Show. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Sure has been quiet on the morning commute this morning, and that's good news. Please call us, so if you see any problems here heading up to 878-830-93. Still time to pass along what's going on out there. Weather-wise, minus 22, mostly cloudy right now in Winnipeg. Brandon is mostly cloudy, minus 17. Some light snow up in Thompson, still falling, minus 18. For Winnipeg today, mainly sunny, high minus 9. But with wind chill minus 34. And by Thursday, we could be well above zero at 3 degrees. For this time, that's well above. Brandon could be seeing 6 degrees with sun by Thursday. Still ahead on the show after 8 o'clock. Now that we're in February, it's the month of love. Valentine's Day 2 weeks ago. But if your love is a chatbot, we're going to hear more about why people are turning to AI for that fulfillment, for love and friendship. And if there are any risks associated with it, we're also going to get some Winnipeggers' take on it. That's after 8, so stay with us. Right now, news headlines with Heather Wells.
Manitoba Hydro says it's going to take a decade for new wind farms to be built in this province, but new natural gas-burning turbines planned for Brandon should be complete by 2030, staving off mid-winter power shortages. Premier Wab Kinew plans to announce his support for a new national marine conservation area off Manitoba's Hudson Bay coast. The NDP government says it will kick in money for a feasibility study for the waters off Churchill, potentially all the way from Nunavut to the Ontario border. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 8:30.
All right, thank you, Heather.
Thanks.
Next on CBC International and National News on World Report. Stay with us here on 89.3.
On Q.
I'm Talia Schlanger in for Tom Power. Beverly Glenn Copeland is a Canadian music legend, a singer, composer, and transgender activist whose work spans 6 decades. He'll be here with his wife Elizabeth to talk about their new album, Laughter in Summer, which they call a love letter to one another.
Laughter in summer. Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
It is called mycelium, the underground parts of fungi that form a web in the dirt.
And the scientist Toby Kears is here to tell you why it's even more interesting than you might think and why she has dedicated her life to studying it. That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Grief and shock are rippling through Canada's hockey community this morning. 3 junior hockey players were killed in a crash on their way to practice. It happened about an hour south of Calgary. 2 of the 3 players were from Kamloops, BC. The CBC's Jonna Bailon reports.
Sad day today.
Nathan Bosa is the president of the Kamloops Minor Hockey Association.
I just got home from work today, and I got a message from one of the local news reporters, and it just, are you aware of this? And I was like, no. So it's, you're trying to process it.
Bosa says Cameron Casorso and JJ Wright, both 18 years old, grew up playing hockey as part of the association. Casorso from 2012 to 2025 and Wright from 2011 to 2025. In a statement, the group said it grieves in solidarity with the Southern Alberta Mustangs as one hockey family forever changed by the loss of these young men. Condolences have been pouring in following the tragedy. The Chase Minor Hockey Association is located in the village of Chase, just east of Kamloops in BC. The group spoke to the closeness of the hockey community as players move between teams, saying in moments like this, we come together to support one another and honor the lives of these 3 boys. In a post on social media, local MP Frank Caputo also offered condolences, saying he is devastated to hear about the lives lost. Meanwhile, Bosa with the Kamloops Minor Hockey Association has a request for people across the country.
Put that hockey stick out tonight.
A reference to the placing of hockey sticks on the front porch following the deadly 2018 Humboldt Broncos crash in Saskatchewan. Jonna Bailon, CBC News, Vancouver.
The Bank of Montreal has been given a multi-million-dollar fine. Canada's banking regulator says BMO overcharged customers on discounted plans. Erica Johnson reports.
The Financial Consumer Agency of Canada has fined BMO $4 million for violating consumer protections in the Bank Act. A report from the regulator says the charges stem from discounted programs that BMO offered. They were designed to offer special benefits to newcomers to Canada, medical and dental students, Indigenous people, and home financing participants. But the regulator says from 2010 to 2024, employees at BMO incorrectly applied monthly plan fees that should have been waived or discounted. BMO estimates over 101,000 customers were financially affected. The bank has issued refunds and rectified interest charges at a cost of just over $3 million and made a $600,000 charitable donation for the amount that couldn't be refunded to accounts. The regulator said the $4 million penalty reflects, in part, quote, the degree of BMO's negligence in failing to implement adequate controls or monitoring. More than 500 customers had filed complaints. A BMO spokesperson said the bank holds itself to the highest standards of conduct, proactively reimbursed its customers, and reported the issue to the regulator. Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Bill and Hillary Clinton have agreed to testify in a House investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. The couple had been facing contempt charges. The CBC's Aaron Collins joins me now from Washington. And Aaron, what do we know?
Well, Marcia, we know the former president and Secretary of State have agreed to testify before Congress's Epstein probe, and we know this is a 180-degree reversal from their position up until now. The Clintons had argued that this was a politically motivated request, even writing a public letter saying they would not appear just a few weeks ago. But pressure was mounting on the couple to testify, and it looked like the two could face charges of criminal contempt for failing to do so. They had attempted to cut a deal where they would avoid testifying before the committee, maybe give written statements or private sworn testimony, but that was rejected by the Republican chair of the committee, and the clock was ticking here. A vote to hold the Clintons in contempt of Congress was scheduled to happen tomorrow, so this reversal appears designed to avoid that.
What happens now?
Well, the Clintons are going to have to appear before this committee. We're not exactly sure when. The date hasn't been determined yet, but we know that the committee is interested in hearing from the former president about his interactions with Jeffrey Epstein. Bill Clinton did know Epstein. He flew on his private jet several times. It's less clear why the committee wants to speak to Hillary Clinton, who says she didn't know the deceased sex offender. But Marcia, sitting in former presidents have testified before Congress before this, but it's pretty rare, and it's been a while. The last time a former president appeared before a congressional committee was Gerald Ford over 40 years ago. And now a spokesperson for the Clintons says they hope the couple's appearance will set a different kind of precedent, alluding to the fact that no one should have an excuse not to appear before this committee, perhaps even including the current president, who also appears in the Epstein files.
Thank you, Aaron.
You bet.
The CBC's Aaron Collins in Washington. NASA is delaying its Artemis 2 moon mission by a month. The launch window was set for sometime next week, but a liquid hydrogen leak is pushing that to March. The spaceflight will eventually take 4 astronauts around the moon, including Canadian Jeremy Hansen, who is among the crew. India's financial markets are rallying today in response to a new trade deal with the U.S. The agreement will see the Trump administration cut tariffs on Indian imports. It ends months of wrangling, but as CBC South Asia correspondent Salima Shivji reports, the details aren't clear.
Breaking news, the United States President
The news came first from a post on Donald Trump's Truth Social platform, the way the U.S. president likes to announce policy. Trump said his country will slash the 50% tariff it had imposed on India to only 18%. That's lower than the duty on neighboring countries like China and Pakistan. But beyond that, there are few details. The president said India would stop buying discounted Russian crude oil and that India would purchase more than $500 billion of U.S. goods. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi also took to social media to herald what he called a wonderful announcement of a reduced 18% tariff, sending President Trump, quote, big thanks. But Modi didn't confirm any other details. Still, the Prime Minister got a round of applause from lawmakers in his ruling party, and the stock market and Indian rupee jumped at the sign of relief from punishing tariffs that were hurting export markets like jewelry, shrimp, and textiles. The trade chain that was broken will now be restored, and U.S. ties will improve, says Ashok Jirawala, head of the Textile Federation in India's Gujarat state. It's unclear what prompted the breakthrough in negotiations, but this could have been a factor.
Mother of all deals.
India signing a historic and wide-ranging trade deal with the European Union just last week. Talks with Canada on energy have also gained momentum, with many countries looking to diversify their trade options. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Mumbai.
First Baptist Church was one of the first places of worship for enslaved people in Ontario. Many would make their way north to freedom and find the church. The Toronto institution is celebrating a milestone this Black History Month. Talia Ricci has the story.
The sights and sounds of faith and community have been a mainstay at First Baptist Church for 200 years, home to the oldest Black institution in Toronto. Wendell Gibbs is the church's 45th pastor. He says after local white churches imposed impossible standards for former slaves to attend worship, 12 men and women who had escaped through the Underground Railroad started their own.
This church was just a hub back in the day, you can imagine, for everyone. All the immigrants who came generally gravitated to First Baptist Church because we're a Black institution, but for some reason the Blackness stayed, and people from Nova Scotia in the 60s just gravitated to us.
Today, the congregation is diverse, reflecting the ever-changing community of downtown Toronto. Kevin Dill has held many roles at the church. Currently, he's a minister.
I was married 40 years ago in this very same sanctuary. Yeah, and I've been coming ever since. So it's special to me. My children grew up here. They were baptized here. It's just transformed my life as an individual.
Rosemary Sadler, who helped introduce Black History Month in Canada in 1995, says this is a rare example of a Toronto institution that's been contributing to the city for 200 years.
For a very long time, and I think for many people, the idea that there have been Black people in this country, never mind that there have been Black people creating positive and purposeful institutions is lost on most of us.
The church will reflect on that legacy as it hosts a special Black History Month service on February 15. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Welcome to Tuesday morning, February 3rd. If you're just getting up, you're late. Coming up to 10 after 8 right now on 89.3 FM. Thanks for being with us here on CBC. This half hour on the show, it is the month of February. Valentine's Day is coming up. The month of love. But is some of that love going to AI? There's been a lot of reports about some people getting emotionally attached to artificial intelligence. How do Manitobans feel about that? We hit the street with that question. But how does it impact human relationships when someone does get involved with a chatbot in some way through friendship or finding love there? We're going to talk to University of Manitoba ethics professor who's been looking into this. So really interesting conversation about love in the age of AI. This half hour on CBC. Let's get to Heather Wells now, who has our headlines from Manitoba.
Good morning. Well, the Union for Manitoba Hydro Workers on Portage Avenue is calling for increased security after an attack inside the public atrium. It happened Friday. That downtown building is still in lockdown as Hydro looks at its security measures. More than 100 people at Canadian Mennonite University last night singing not just in solidarity with Minneapolis, but in protest of ICE activity there. Agents shot and killed 2 people on the streets last month. CMU's Sandra Coop-Harder hopes to have more events where people can come and sing songs of protest and courage. I'll be back with more news coming up at 8:30.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
All right, to the forecast with Abby.
Yeah, we're looking at a chilly start across the province and sunshine making its way already across most of the regions. We should be expecting light snow and a few clouds moving in later. That will be happening through the day. The real story today is actually the wind chill, which will be pushing towards the -40, close to -40 wind chill up north, and we might notice that in the Interlake region. We're also going to see that transition as the sunshine will be giving way to some clouds and light snow later. Winnipeg right now, -22, -23, depending on where you are. We warm to -9 later in the day. Some sunshine already making its appearance. We'll see the winds arrive this afternoon, and we warm up to that -9. But the wind chill is something you need to take into consideration. Across the southern regions, we're looking at -17s to -25 between Brandon and all the way towards Dauphin this morning. Highs -4 and -9 in the Red River Valley region. Up north, we're looking at -14 to -18 to -23 later in Churchill, with severe wind chill close to -39. But Winnipeg right now at a crisp -22.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Kind of been stuck there all morning. The drive, the walk, the roll. How's the commute, Sierra?
There's not much to talk about this morning.
Eh?
It's been a quiet commute this morning. The commuter line has been pretty quiet this morning, so nothing major to report, no major backups or any situations that are appearing for people. But I don't know if some people have noticed it, but it's getting lighter.
It is.
Slowly but surely. And
it's
feels so
nice,
good.
isn't it? I noticed something beautiful on my way in, actually, since we don't have anything serious to report. On Beaverbrook and Grosvenor, which is part of my route in through River Heights neighborhood. And I often see deer in the neighborhood, but they were just gorgeous. I don't know how safe it is, but walking right through the residential area, like a family of 5, like 4 huge deer and then a buck. Walking slowly across the street, there was something almost spiritual about watching them. But then there they were going to, bird feeder in someone's front yard. So, which is not always safe. But yeah, they were there gathering for their granola. But yeah,
slowly but surely, the winter will come to an end. Whether it be the temperatures or the light coming back, I don't know what my favorite part is.
I thought to myself, I better not hit these deer and then be the first person to hit a deer within the city of Winnipeg, right? Like usually it's in the highways.
Headlines.
Right. So quiet. Where can people call if it changes?
Yeah, quiet, but still a lot of time left in the show. But 204-788-3093 is the place to reach me.
right, let's talk about AI chatbot and companion bot love. They come with features like voice calls, picture exchanges, and they can mimic emotional exchanges as well. So we did want to ask Winnipeggers to set up our next conversation if they think they could have a meaningful, loving relationship with artificial intelligence. CBC's Jim Agapito took that question to the campus at the University of Manitoba.
Dylan Marty.
Would you ever consider having AI chatbot as a friend?
No.
Why is that?
Because I think it's nearly impossible to duplicate human connection, particularly with generative text models. I think it's going to be really potentially dangerous to rely on AI as connection, as companionship, when there's already tons of companionship to be found in the world.
My full name is Ume Jari Irene Sara. Depressing because I feel like that you have to be so lonely to actually think that, oh, I will just be myself and then talking with the computer programming instead of like having an actual friend, going out, having fun, something like that.
Maxwell Raymond Phrase. Me personally, probably no, but I mean, it's everywhere, like on Snapchat, it's like the top thing is your My AI, so. But me personally, no, I don't know, I'm not into it.
My name is Kunal Jawahar Lalani. Again, it sounds like depressing, like people don't have real friends, so they are just making up new friends like AI to get some kind of communication and trying to replace somebody's need in their life.
Do you have any friends that do have relationships with AI? I'm curious.
I actually do have one, now that I think about it. She uses her AI as kind of like not confidant, but like with questions that she's too afraid to ask other people, she'll ask the AI first. I think it's kind of funny, but yeah. Like she knows it's not a real person and she's just kind of using it as like a double thing, but it's kind of funny because she'll ask a question about myself or about my girlfriend, and then the AI will spit out all this information that she's told her already, so it's kind of weird in that way.
There have been stories about people having companions, romantic relationships with AI. How do you feel about that?
I think I'm empathetic to people who need that or who rely on that, and hope that there's a way that they can reach out to others who can fill that need for them instead.
It's sad. I feel like you don't have to rely on a computer program to deal with your emotions and everything. They're people and we are human beings, we are social beings. We are made to interact with other human beings. We are made to feel that we have the heart. I think that's the thing. Yes, AI has brain, we have brain, but we have the heart, and let's use the heart instead of using just a computer program. Yeah.
Hey, that was CBC's Jim Agapito talking to some of the Winnipeggers out who are on campus at the University of Manitoba. So as technology keeps evolving, we wanted to know if people can have a quote-unquote real relationship with AI, and does it pose any risk to the relationships you have in human life? Neil MacArthur's here, Director of the Centre for Professional and Applied Ethics over at the University of Manitoba. Good morning.
Good morning.
So let's start with what a lot of those folks said, at least. Is it necessarily sad if someone seeks out an AI relationship?
I have to admit, I don't think it's particularly sad. I think that if you look at the research, what it shows is that most people who do this are doing one of two things. Either they're experimenting, they're just sort of trying out this technology and they think it's going to be fun, or they're looking for a way of exploring fantasies or discussions or conversations that they don't feel they can have with other human beings. So I think right now we're not seeing a lot of research that says that, these are just, sad people who are desperate for connection. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If you're lonely, I don't think it's your fault necessarily, and I don't think we should stigmatize people for that. But I also don't think that's necessarily the profile of the users.
The first person we heard from there also said it's potentially dangerous. Could it be? And if so, in what way?
It could be. It definitely could be. There's a couple of ways in which it could be dangerous. I mean, I think there's a lot of concern right now, and actually there's a lot of legislation being proposed because people are concerned that it might lead to some kind of psychosis in an extreme case. I think that's one concern. I think the other concern is just that it might negatively impact our human relationships, that it might make us, spoiled for the complexities of human relationships, or somehow just prefer these easy, affirming relationships with AI. I'm not sure that the right now we're seeing evidence of either of those things on a very large scale, but I think they're possibilities.
It's interesting because in sort of a parallel conversation, there was some years ago, there was a conference here at the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, and a speaker came in to talk about sexual relationships. And it was talking about how young men, and there were studies done around this, but how young men would look online to access sort of pornography and sexual ideals, online. And then what happened to them was they were unable then to sort of feel sexual emotions toward their partners in real life, because the two things had been sort of, the comparisons had been made, and it's almost exactly the same thing. If you have the ideal boyfriend or girlfriend online or friendship, the danger is you're coming back to your real person. And as you described it, the complexities of humanity are different. Can you elaborate on that risk?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just put my cards on the table. I also work on sexual ethics issues, and I'm a little suspicious of some of those claims that people make about the impact that pornography is having on human relationships. And I think I'm skeptical this is, as I said, having a huge impact on human relationships right now with AI as well. But I think if we want to sort of, look at the worst case scenario, I think the concern is that as you said, people will find that if they have someone to talk to who tells them they're brilliant all the time and they're great, and everyone else is so much dumber than they are, then why are they going to engage with human beings who, may be in a bad mood, may tell them things they don't want to hear? And yeah, I mean, I do think complexity is part of human relationships. I think that if these were the only relationships people were having, we might start to be concerned. I'm not sure right now that's the case.
How can someone have a meaningful romantic relationship with AI? Like, what would AI do to make someone feel that love connection?
Well, AI is definitely programmed to engage with you. And when you look at the specific, I mean, there are both, you can interact both with, the general chatbots we're used to, like ChatGPT and so on. But then there are also apps that are specifically designed for social connection and even for romantic and sexual connection. And so these bots are optimized to engage with you and to make you feel like you are having a meaningful connection. And so I think that it depends what we think is meaningful. I mean, I think people have all kinds of different connections. I think a lot of people feel like they have meaningful connections with their pets. I mean, are their pets human beings? No. Do their pets have all the complexities of human beings? No. Yet somehow we don't seem to worry that people feel like they have meaningful connections with their pets. People have what they think are meaningful connections with their sports teams, even though their sports teams don't know who they are. So I think, people can find meaning in all sorts of different relationships. I think this is just another instance of that.
My ears perked up when somebody was using the example that there's someone that was asking AI questions first that they might be too afraid to ask, someone in human life, kind of testing it out. But then that person, I think, rightfully pointed out that it's spitting back with you, to you, everything that you told it in the first place. So what's the caution there, or can somebody actually get good advice from AI?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you talk to your friend about someone they don't know, I think and get advice. I have this human relationship that's causing me problems. You're also just going to get back what you've already told them because they don't have access to any other information. So I don't worry about that inherently. I do think privacy is a big issue. I think that we need to keep in mind that most of these companies are not exactly obsessed with user data privacy, that most of these companies, actually, there have been studies done that show that most of them have actually pretty terrible privacy policies. And so I do think people need to be well informed about the risks as far as, sharing intimate data with these bots, because these companies don't necessarily have their best interest at heart when it comes to privacy.
What are the benefits of using AI for the relationships then, just to make sure we get enough of the positives in here, in your view?
First of all, I think it's fun. I think if you look at why most people are doing it, I think that they're doing it because they enjoy it. And, things that are fun are things that we should value. I think that, again, a lot of the research shows that people are using it as a safe space to explore. they want to explore things in relationships that maybe they don't feel comfortable with human beings, or they're exploring their own identity. And I think that's really important, because we still live in a society where there's lots of stigma around all kinds of, marginalized identities and marginalized practices. And so I think that's really important. And I do think that, we shouldn't neglect the fact that some people really are isolated or lonely or not finding the kinds of connections they want. And so I think if people can find an alternative source of connection rather than nothing, that's probably better than nothing.
What's your advice for someone of what they might keep in mind if they decide to move forward with exploring AI in the ways we've been talking about?
I would say just try to inform yourself. Try to, keep in mind what these things are, how they work as near as you can understand them. Keep in mind the risks of privacy, and then ultimately make sure that, you're checking in with other human beings and they know. I think, one of the things we want to do is remove the stigma from these relationships, because we want to make sure people can talk to their friends and their therapists and their teachers and their parents about these, so that because I think a lot of the times when we've had really tragic, problematic behavior associated with these bots, it's people who just, are too afraid to even tell other human beings that they're engaging with these bots. And so no one can notice the red flags. So, just be open and don't be afraid. And if someone comes to you to talk to you about this, be open to them and don't stigmatize.
Interesting times we live in. I don't think I would have ever said, Neil, I'd have a conversation like this when I consider I started in journalism when the internet was just beginning to be a thing, right?
You and me both.
Yeah.
You and me both.
Thanks for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
That's Neil MacArthur, Director of the Center for Professional and Applied Ethics over at the University of Manitoba. We reached him this morning on CBC via Zoom. Time for a bit of music here. Winnipeg's Brett Schultz is stepping into the spotlight with a brand new EP. Known for his work, though, as a go-to guitarist for acts like Keisha Booker and Sheena Ratai, but he's now sharing his own solo material. And we have some of it now from his EP, It Goes On. This is the title track.
People in your life, they come and they go. Funny how a friend can become someone you used to know. They're all on a path, finding their own way. When you try love, well, sometimes it hurts. You have it all figured out, then it crumbles to dirt. What if it all works out and you throw it all away? It goes on and on. I wonder what the secret to life really is. Some people want money and others want to have a big family. Maybe I'd travel the world and climb every mountain. When you try love, well, sometimes it hurts. You have it all figured out, then it crumbles to dirt. What if it all works out and you throw it all away? It goes on and on. It goes on and on. And if I could change just one thing, I'd worry less about meaningless things. Try to move on, let the past be the past. When you try love, well, sometimes it hurts. You have it all figured out, then it crumbles to dirt. What if it all works out and you throw it all away? It goes on and on, goes on and on, it goes on and on.
It's nice, eh? That is Winnipeg's Brett Schultz, and it goes on CBC. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app on YouTube. And coming up next, it's your news from Manitoba.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 8:30. We're still at minus 22 in downtown Winnipeg. We'll see increasing clouds by about noon today and then periods of snow expected this afternoon. We warm up to minus 9. The Manitoba Hydro building on Portage Avenue is in lockdown after an employee was assaulted inside the public atrium. It happened late Friday afternoon when a suspect armed with a knife started causing a disturbance inside the building. An employee walking through the atrium was knocked down by that suspect, suffering minor injuries. The union for hundreds of workers there is calling for increased security. CUPE Local 998 President Michelle Bergen says for now the building is locked to the public and employees have to use their fobs to get in.
It's a great solution for now. I don't know how that's going to work moving forward because the atrium, we use it for such big events like, we have the farmers market there and, we have different events going on. So that would mean that would shut down the lobby for everybody.
Bergen says security in the area has been a concern for some time, but this is the first time she's heard of those issues entering the building. An 18-year-old man has been charged. A Canadian senator is calling for a ban on sports betting advertising. Single event sports betting was made legal in Canada in 2021. Senator Marty Deakin out of Ontario initially supported its legalization because of the dangers of unregulated betting, but she acknowledges gambling advertising is out of control.
Canadians across the country, they're being exposed to ads for companies that only Ontarians can legally bet in. It's not right. It's not fair if some provinces and territories have held back privatizing their own betting markets because of the risk of gambling addiction.
Deakin has co-authored a letter to Prime Minister Mark Carney calling for an outright ban of sports betting advertising in Canada. Manitoba Hydro says it is going to take a decade for new wind farms to be built in this province, but new natural gas burning turbines planned for Brandon should be completed by 2030, staving off midwinter power shortages. Hydro Communications Director Scott Powell says there is a new plan for the Crown Corporation to save and generate more electricity.
We wouldn't put a plan out that we thought wouldn't meet the needs of Manitobans in terms of a reliable, safe, and affordable energy supply. We're quite confident in this, but that being said, obviously it's a living document, and as conditions, if we start to see conditions change going forward, we'll be adjusting that plan, obviously.
Manitoba Hydro aims to make additional 2,000 megawatts of power available to consumers by 2035. Premier Rob Canoe plans to announce his support for a new national marine conservation area off Manitoba's Hudson Bay coast. The NDP government says it will kick in money for a feasibility study for the waters of Churchill, potentially all the way from Nunavut to the Ontario border. It will be done in conjunction with the federal government, Indigenous communities, and Parks Canada. Singing in solidarity. More than 100 people at Canadian Mennonite University last night singing not just in solidarity with Minneapolis, but also in protest of ICE activity there. Agents shot and killed 2 people on the streets last month. CMU's Sandra Coop-Harder says people here are yearning to take action of any kind.
There's something that's really special about singing together. You use your whole body to do that, and it's like a communal prayer. And it really is, I think, something that clearly all the people here felt that they needed tonight.
Coop-Harder hopes to have more events where people can come and sing songs of protest and courage. Well, 2 students leading a multicultural club at a Winnipeg high school hope to make change and drive important conversations. Praise Oyuwale is a grade 12 student at Shaftesbury High School. She is the founder and co-president of Shaftesbury Diversify. The group plans to run anti-racism workshops during this Black History Month. They're also gearing up for a huge multicultural event in April called One Rhythm, Our Roots.
It's not up to one person to bring about change. And it's that when we connect with each other and we bring about unity, that is when change really is something that can be magnified.
This year's theme for Black History Month is honoring Black brilliance across generations, from nation builders to tomorrow's visionaries. You can read more about that, and you can also find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Well, a provocative question on Noon today. They're asking if Minnesota should be part of Canada. That conversation between 12:30 and 1. I want to give thanks to those folks who worked on the show specifically today. Our associate producers with items today, Sophia Peralta-Barone and Zabina Ahmed. Our reporter in unit, Jim Agapito. In our news department, Heather Wells, Megan Ketchison, Darren Bernhardt, and Chris Armstrong, as well as our producer in unit, which is Nellie Gonzalez, and our senior producer of audio, got to get the titles right here at CBC Manitoba, is Leif Larson. Thanks to our Studio 15 crew, Darren Marash and Abby Adiemi and Sierra Sanders. And Sierra's got our last look at traffic.
Yes, for sure. Got a call from Tim a little while ago, but northbound Sherbrooke at Ellis, just north of Ellis. Lots of emergency crews on scene dealing with this situation. They were blocking the curb lane and median lane, so taking away a good part of the lanes, bringing it down to one lane there, with getting barricades up. So be aware of that if that is the case. Northbound Sherbrooke at Ellis, emergency vehicles on scene tending to a situation, taking up your curb lane and median lane. You're down to one lane there.
Okay, Abby.
A bright and chilly start across the regions. We're already seeing sunshine across most of the areas in the south. Those sunshine will be making way for light snow and some cloudy conditions as a new system moves through. We will see highs near -7 for most of the regions in the south, and up north, highs will be near -10, but expect some light snow across the regions today.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
End of the show. Thank you for listening, and we hope you join us again tomorrow morning for another edition of Information Radio here on CBC, your public broadcaster. Stay tuned to 89.3. The Current's coming up next. Take care.